Oh, baby. The notification just went across. Well, actually, no, not notification. I just got the that red bars across my screen on StreamYard, which let me know that we are live. What is going on, people? What is going on? Oh, and there we go. The YouTube just sent out my notification, which means the nation knows that we are live. Should probably turn that down. All right. So we got 10 people watching, although StreamYard says I have 0. Now it says 10. StreamYard is always slow, but whatever. Anyway, y'all know what time it is. It's Friday night. And are we really doing this right now? All right, something's really going on my camera or cable because we got this screen carrying monkey crap going on again. This is very annoying. I don't understand it. Okay, no, I guess not yet. Probably will be later on. But all right, let me get into the introduction. So we got 13 people watching according to YouTube and now StreamYard. All right, cool. So let's get into the introduction and then I will do my shout out. So current time 6:33 p.m. Central Standard Time, which means you are in the right place. You are on the right YouTube channel, baby. And if you are new here, you don't know what's coming, but if you're a Friday Night Vyp veteran, you know what's about to happen next because this is the part of the live stream where I'm going to need you to turn your volume down. Because if you don't turn your volume down, I cannot be held responsible for what your neighbor might think of you once this intro goes deep, and it's going deep. And as you can see tonight, I got different equipment from the usual. This is the industry-leading Studio Dynamic mic, Shure SM7B, which you have seen on all of your favorite podcasts and YouTube channels. So you know this intro is about to be booming tonight. So you really might want to watch your volume. I'm excited about this and good stuff. But anyway, with those disclaimers out of the way, let me back up a few feet because I don't want to knock the mic over. And then we will go into the introduction, the legendary introduction on this legendary microphone. Woo! All right. Got the arms out. You know the procedures. We about to go to work here. What's up, people? This your boy Viper, the man about tech, and oh man, let's try it again. That was I forgot my own intro. All right, let's do a little quick reset and try it again. Gotta love live stream because you never know what happens when you go live. All right, take two. Woo! Okay. Oh boy. What's up, people? This your boy Viper, the man about tech, and we are live. Welcome to Friday Night Vyp, baby. Woo! Oh, yeah! It is that day again. We are back. We are live on YouTube. Yes. All right. Now that we did it correctly the second time around, before I get started, let me see who I got in the chat tonight, baby. Woo! All right. Oh, man. First on the list, we got Jiffer. What's up, Jiffer? How you doing, baby? How you doing? We got my head of security, El Jefe Review. What's up, Jeff? How you doing? We got Mediocre Tech in the cut. What's up, Mediocre? How you doing? We got Jason C out there. What's up, Jason? How you doing, baby? How you doing? Mr. 504 checking in. What's up, 504? How you doing? And of course, it wouldn't be a Friday Night Vyp without my man Genosis in the cut. What's up, Genosis? How you doing, baby? How you doing? We got the lethal one, Lethal Emperor in the building. What's up, Lethal? How you doing? We got this imposter Viper in. Who else we got? Who else we got? Who else we got? Let me go down. Let me go down. Let me go down. We got my man Marvin Wallace from the UK. What's up, Marvin? How you doing, baby? How you doing? We got Juan Contreras. What's up, Juan? How you doing, baby? How you doing? And John Michelle is up in there. What's up, John? What's up, bro? What's up? And Evid A is in the building. What's up, Evid? How you doing, baby? How you doing? Who else we got? Who else we got? Alan Osborne. What's up, Alan? How you doing, man? How you doing? And Slaw OTS. What's up, Slaw? How you doing? And we got my man Tech for Your Needs. What's up, Tech for Your Needs? How you doing, man? How you doing? And F Nick. What's up, F Nick? How you doing, baby? How you doing? And is that Trenton Marshall? That is the artist formerly known as Tech Rant. Shout out to my man Trenton for being my guest last night on an impromptu Vyp Drive podcast. That episode will be on the podcast airways probably by the end of the weekend, but shout out to Trent. We got Perp Minded up there. What's up, Perp? We got Perp Minded. What's up, Perp? How you doing? And we got Greg Gadget with the super chat. Woo! Thank you, Mr. Greg Gadget. Definitely appreciate the support for the MacBook Pro fund. Yeah, no kidding, right? The new MacBook Pro start at $2,400. I wish I can get one, but my bank account does not speak that type of language, unfortunately. So, yeah, I'm kind of disqualified. But hey, one day. All right, so yeah. So as usual on these Friday nights, I'm a little upset about a few things. One of them is tech related. The other one is not tech related, as you guys can tell by the live stream title. But I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna get into that right now because I got a special guest coming in about 20 minutes that I can get into that more with. But in 20 minutes, we will have the world's greatest Apple tech journalist coming to the show tonight. That's right. Rene Richie will be back on Friday Night Vyp tonight in 20 minutes. So I think I'm going to wait for Rene before I get into the tech thing that's happening since it's practically Apple related. And there's no better person to talk to about my Apple related midlife crisis than Rene Richie. So we're going to rock out with Rene. Greg. I mean, you know where to find me, Greg. You know where to find me. That's right, El Jefe. I got to air some grievances, man. I got to air some grievances. But, I think, like I said, while I wait for Rene to get into why I'm really upset, a lot of you all, I haven't really given my thoughts too much. I gave a little bit of it last night on the podcast if you were listening, but a lot of y'all are wondering about the Motorola RAZR, the new foldable phone that's coming out next year. Oddly enough, Motorola held their event 2 nights ago, but the actual phone's not being released until 2020. So that is what that is. But the Motorola RAZR is coming next year, and it's Motorola's foray into the foldable party here. The very first foldable phone was the abominable, forgettable Flex Pi Royale or Royale Flex Pi, whatever the hell monkey dribble you want to call it. But that was the very first widely available foldable phone. Then Samsung finally got their act together after having to recall the original launch of the Galaxy Fold. And back in September, they finally re-released the actual consumer retail version of the Galaxy Fold. Now, even though that phone had its faults back in its initial launch in April, a lot of people seem to be kind of enjoying their experience and time with the Samsung Galaxy Fold. But obviously, the hardware is very fragile, and Samsung really needs to do some tight engineering for the second version of the Fold. But now we have Motorola coming to the stage with the Motorola RAZR, a retake on an old classic from the early 2000s. Same clamshell design as the original RAZR, but only this RAZR, this updated version, has a foldable display. So it folds like it normally does, but in the middle, you got a 6.2-inch full display when it's fully folded out. And that is about the only redeeming quality of the updated Motorola RAZR. It's very interesting because people are going crazy over the phone, and rightfully so, because it is a flashback to nostalgia back to the early 2000s where Motorola was making a lot of noise in the tech space with the RAZR. The RAZR was the iPhone of its day, if I'm being honest with you guys. Right now, well, not as much as it used to be, but right now, the iPhone is still the status symbol as far as smartphones are concerned. The Motorola RAZR was the status symbol of its day. If you had a RAZR back in the day, you were doing big things, and it was like iPhone status. You pulled out that RAZR, you were at the top of the food chain. You would have bounced back in the day with that RAZR. But in 2019, and Motorola is re-releasing the RAZR after pretty much being out of the mainstream limelight for 4, 5, 6 years now. I mean, what's the last big phone release that Motorola has put out there that has been like relevant? I don't know. I can't even remember at this point. But that's neither here nor there. The Motorola RAZR, their foldable phone, is coming in 2020. And like I said, the only redeeming quality about the device is the fact that it folds. Because once you get past the fact that it folds, you're talking about a Snapdragon 710, I think, or whatever. And I think it has maybe 4 gigs of RAM. I don't know the exact specification, but I think it has maybe like 4 gigs of RAM, if that. But the battery is like 2,500 milliamp hours, and it has one camera on the device. Now we talking. I have faith that 6 gigs of RAM. Okay, so that's 6 gigs of RAM, but one camera on the device. So even though the device has one camera, the cool thing about that one camera is that it will serve as your selfie camera and the rear camera. So you get the same quality out of their rear camera as you do the selfie, since it's the same thing. But this device is coming with one camera with a Snapdragon 710, no other redeeming qualities other than the fact that it folds. And the worst part about it is that it's going to come at a cost of $1,500. I think that's the most damning point of the entire phone, is that it's coming at $1,500. I understand that everybody's excited about brand new technology, and rightfully so, because the smartphone game has been stale or getting stale quickly. But you're talking about form factor that is kind of small. I mean, even though it does stretch out to 6.2 inches, I mean, when you fold it up, you got like a 2.7 inch like quick display. You can't even use it. The only thing it's there for is seeing your notifications and things like that. But when you fold the phone up, it's practically unusable. It's not like the Galaxy Fold or the Huawei Mate X, where if you fold it up, you can still use the phone, the smart function of the phone. When you fold up this Motorola RAZR, that's it. I mean, most of your functionality is gone. But Motorola is asking for $1,500 for this RAZR. And not only are they asking for $1,500, they're asking for $1,500, and the phone is only going to be available on Verizon. And if I'm hearing correctly, it is a lifetime exclusive to Verizon. Did we not learn our lesson about how to sell phones when you make them a carrier exclusive? How did that work out for Google in the Pixel line? Yeah, I don't know, Motorola. I don't know about this, but the bigger problem to me immediately is that the damn thing is $1,500, and the only thing that's redeeming about it is the fact that it folds. Like, at least with the Galaxy Fold, like I was alluding to earlier, when you fold it up, you can still use the smart functions. You can still use apps, tech, things like that. You fold up this Motorola RAZR, you got nothing. You got notifications, and that's it. So I don't understand the allure of charging $1,500, other than the fact that it's one big nostalgia play, and they try to tug on the 30-something heartstrings of people like me and people that grew up in the 90s and saw that phone for its iconic status that it achieved back in the, actually, why don't I say 90s, right? Well, early 2000s anyway. The status that it had achieved in the early 2000s, they're trying to bring that back 15 years later. But, we got a lot of competition in the smartphone game 15 years later. It is not the same landscape that the original RAZR stepped into. We are talking about a landscape with the likes of an iPhone, Galaxy Note, Galaxy S devices, Huawei devices, Google Pixels, LG devices. I mean, there are a lot of, actually, I almost forgot, OnePlus devices. So there's a lot of stiff competition in the smartphone game. Even though the RAZR distinguishes itself by the fact that it is a foldable device, you are still facing stiff, heavy competition in the smartphone market overall with iPhones and Galaxies and Pixels and things like that. So when you are asking for $1,500 for a phone just because it folds, and you are looking to play off of nostalgia when there's so many other smartphone players in the game like iPhones and Galaxies and Pixels, that's a hard ask. Especially, and you're not giving yourself any chances by limiting the phone to Verizon. I don't understand. I mean, I guess they're trying to like maybe do a small dry run to see how much interest there is in the phone. But there are a lot of there is a lot of competition in the smartphone game, and the RAZR is going to have a tough road to hold when it finally comes out in 2020, which is what, in 2 months. So I don't know. Let's see. Even A said many YouTubers seem to love that phone, especially painfully honest take. Yeah, actually, there are a bunch of YouTubers that do love the RAZR. Like I said, it does bring back that nostalgia factor because I mean, that was the it phone. It was the iPhone of its day back in the early 2000s. That was the it phone. If you had a RAZR, you were at the top of the food chain. You were the boss. But it ain't 2004 no more. We are in 2019 where iPhones and Galaxy devices are king. And Samsung already has a one-up on you because they have the Galaxy Fold out there in the wild. Now, even though the Galaxy Fold is almost $500 more than what Motorola is asking for the RAZR, the Galaxy Fold is available on multiple carriers and things like that. The RAZR is only exclusive and available on Verizon Wireless, and it doesn't do much. And Mediocre Tech is saying in the chat that the RAZR, the original, the OG RAZR, was $600 at launch back in 2004. So I guess Motorola is not like strangers to asking for high pricing for their phone. But back in 2004, the RAZR was a breakthrough. There was nothing on the market like it. It is not like that anymore. It's not like that here in 2019, which I just said. There's a bunch of competition out there, and I don't know if the RAZR is going to have nearly as much success as they had in the early 2000s with the amount of competition that is out there. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen with this launch. I guess we will find out what happens when it comes out. And I think in January they're looking at a January release for the Moto RAZR, the 2019 edition. Actually, can't really even call it the 2019 edition because it's coming in 2020. So I guess we should really be calling it the Motorola RAZR 2020, as Barbara Walters says. And this is 2020. So Gamcast said they think it will sell out because it's different and it's nostalgia. Man, I don't know if it'll sell out. At $1,500 for a phone that doesn't really do much besides fold, that is going to be a tough sell. I mean, maybe the nostalgia might get it over the hump, but you are relying on a lot of nostalgia to get that phone over the hump because other than nostalgia, that phone doesn't bring much to the table. Like I said, once you get past the part of it folding, there's not much to the Moto RAZR of 2020. So I don't know if I would say it'll sell out, but I mean, it'll have some success. I don't know. Metal for breakfast. What's up, Mr. TikTok? How you doing, baby? How you doing? And 504 said, not many people were paying full price for the RAZR in 2004. They brought them on contract. That is true. That was back in the day when we had contracts. We don't really have them anymore, but yeah, that was back in the day. Dave Fink says, as much as the RAZR was a great device back in the day, is anyone actually going to pay over $1,000 for it? Well, the one advantage that the Moto RAZR of 2020 will have is that device payment plans are a thing. So not too many people are going to pay the full price outright for it. They will pay for it in monthly payments like everything else. So if you really want to have that nostalgia feel and you want to pay those high monthly payments, then yeah, it's going to be between $50 and $60 a month on Verizon because I know I pay monthly payment for expensive Verizon phones. I should know about this. But yeah, that phone is going to be in the $50 to $60 a month range. But yeah, people really want it. If they really want to relive those glory days of 2004, then the monthly payment option will be available to them for the Moto RAZR of 2020. So Rashid said he gives it 6 to 8 months, or he gives it six months, and he says the price will drop between 6 and 800. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Um, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's possible and definitely possible, but who knows? Ethnic says their fold mechanism looks good, seems improved over the Samsung. Yes, that is the one thing that the RAZR has going for it. The folding mechanism is definitely legit. It seems more sturdy. It seems more durable in the long run than Samsung because they have that reinforced hinge on the RAZR. So I would definitely say that the RAZR has a better folding mechanism than the Galaxy Fold. But like I said, once you get, at least with the Galaxy Fold, you got different features and functions. You got like 6 cameras on the device. You got a display inside and a display outside. The RAZR has that one display inside, and that's pretty much it. That display outside doesn't even count because you can't really do much you can't really do much with it other than get your notifications. It's basically an always on display. That's pretty much what it is. It's an always on display at 2.7 inches, and you can't do nothing else with it besides see what notifications you got. So what else is that phone doing? I don't know. Dr. Donna is back. Hey, Donna, how you doing? And she said, not for me. I still have my old RAZR. If I want nostalgia, I will pull it out, lovingly gaze upon it, and stick it back in the box and put it away, all the while keeping $1,500+ in my pocket. Donna being savage. She bringing the savagery to the live stream tonight. I respect that, doctor. I respect that. I mean, but she's not lying, though. She's not kidding. If you got your old RAZR and you want to relive those glory days, just pull it out of the drawer, look at it for a few seconds, and then put that bad boy back in the drawer because you can't use it no more. And like she said, all the while saving yourself $1,500. Ethnic said Galaxy Fold drama wouldn't have helped RAZR, maybe. I don't think even if the Fold launched cleanly, I don't know if it really would have mattered that much, man. Like I said, other than nostalgia, the RAZR doesn't really have much going for it. But you know what? That's my opinion. Let's get a second opinion about this. Let me bring in the world's greatest Apple tech journalist to the cut, Mr. Rene Richie. What's up, man?
Hey, man. Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you already, of course, man. I'm glad. Thank you for joining me. I always love having you on here and talking to you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
So, Rene, you were around back in the early 2000s. What do you think about this updated 2020 Motorola RAZR?
You know, like from the nostalgia factor, I think it's awesome. I like that they thought about the hinge. It appears more than Samsung did with that cool teardrop shape to sort of protect it while you're using it. I think $1,500 is a big ask. It's sort of like you were saying, a nostalgia novelty play. But you know, like the Mr. Mobile and people like him are going to drop that in a heartbeat.
Oh, of course.
But I think given I'm so confused that they locked the specs 18 months ago. I'm not sure how that works in terms of their design cycle, but that's the only thing that makes me hesitate. Like if it was a completely modern phone, I think I might consider it, but I don't know how well it's going to age.
I mean, with those specs inside, it's not going to age very well. If they want to keep things going, they're going to have to come out with a new version rather quickly.
Or maybe they think the screen won't last that long either, so it's fine.
Right. Because you still got that soft plastic that they're using for the display, so they're gonna have to. You got to really take care of it, otherwise it's gonna be kaput like the fold screen.
But I can totally see Fisher like flipping it open, going Fisher to Enterprise, you know.
Oh, you already know, man. Michael Fisher's gonna be all over that. He even said, "It's mine. Don't even worry about it. I got it."
Yes.
So I'm glad you're here because I got issues. Apple is giving me issues, Rene, and of course, my camera wants to be silly. But let me bring it back real quick. I got this. Come on, camera. All right. So it wants to be dumb. Hold on, people. Let me catch this bad boy, and boom. All right. So John Prosser, our good friend John Prosser, put out a front page tech earlier this morning with an exclusive about Apple and how they're going to be doing their product launches going forward. Now, after watching this particular episode of Front Page Tech, kind of got me a little upset, a little triggered. Not a John Prosser though, but just how Apple is going to be handling these product launches going forward. So he's saying that these soft product launches like the AirPods Pro and the MacBook Pro, where they have these little private prep briefings, and then they drop it all quietly a day or two later or a week or two later. It's an experiment that Apple is doing to see if they can have more organic sales. And to me, I just feel like this is a response to the tech journalist back at the iPhone keynote saying that this could have been a press briefing. These tech events are getting boring, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, no, don't mess with my Apple events. Leave my Apple events alone. So I feel like this is Apple trying to respond to that a little bit, just trying to put their feet in the water to see if this is something that they can do long term. But I feel like, Rene, if this has any type of success, this might be the end of the grand tech events as we know them, or it could lead to the end of tech events. So what is Apple trying to do with these soft product launches?
So I can totally understand why someone would tell John that. But I think that's one sort of facet of a much bigger picture, and they didn't really give him the whole story. So there's a couple of things to factor in here. One is those giant Apple events are a huge pain in the butt to coordinate, not just for Apple, but for everybody who has to attend them. And I think that's when they do them, especially now, it's when they have enough products to really make it worthwhile to create an entire event around. And also when it's more efficient, especially because they've been focusing a lot more on international these days. They don't just bring in US journalists or invite US journalists. They invite journalists from China, from Japan, from all over the place. And that's really expensive, not just for Apple, but for all the journalists involved to get there. It's a huge undertaking. And for an iPhone event, makes total sense. For WWDC, makes total sense. It's more efficient for everybody involved because they're doing like briefings 24/7. They're bringing in everybody. They're doing like Brazilian media, Japanese media, and all the teams are in one place, all the marketing people, all the product leaders. And it's just so much more efficient to do it that way. But this October, they were busy doing the Apple TV Plus launch, and they had a bunch of PR people who were in LA over and over again for all the premieres. So a lot of their team just wasn't available. And also, I think they learned a lesson from the AirPower that you can't just announce these products anymore and say it'll be available in a month. It'll be like, maybe you can do that with an iPhone XR or something, but you have to, like, Apple has to stop pre-announcing things because they don't always know the timeline exactly. And I think, people have gotten mad, rightly so, when they haven't delivered things in a timely fashion. Like HomePod got delayed, AirPods were delayed, AirPower got canceled, that they want to announce those products when they know absolutely for sure they're going to ship. Like they've got all the bugs out, everything is ready. And when you look at this October, they have to have enough units to seed reviewers. They have to have enough units for their people, for their purposes. They have to have enough time for the pros. Like if you look at even the video Apple put out, they had given those MacBook Pros to, Felder, the music producer, who's just so awesome. And they'd given it to Industrial Lights and Magic. They'd given it to I'm blanking on his name, the gigabit photographer. And that all takes time. And they just didn't have enough time to line all those things up. So I think the experimentation part isn't actually that. The experimentation part started 2 or 3 years ago when they started giving YouTubers access to stuff, which, they were criminally late to doing that. They didn't have a lot of YouTubers around. Even they didn't invite like Marquez or Justine, never mind like a lot of YouTubers until fairly recently. And last year at the October event, the first people to get the MacBook Air weren't bloggers, and they weren't even tech YouTubers. It was like a young lady, a photographer. It was like they were trying to find people who would use it as part of their life and reach audiences that Apple never reached before. And that sort of led them to entirely different markets. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe the next iPhone video will debut on a makeup YouTube channel. I really don't know. But they really, they figure they're going to watch you. People are going to watch your iPhone review, Viper. They're going to watch mine. But, that they know those audiences. But are they going to watch Shane Dawson's iPhone review or James Charles's iPhone review? And maybe that's 1 million people who wouldn't have watched mine or yours, or 5 million people. I don't know. I think that's the experimentation part. And whether they have an event or they just have briefings is really dependent on them having enough products to fill an event and to make it worthwhile for them to take the time to set it up and all of us to take the time to travel there.
Okay, so let's go back to what you were talking about how you don't want to pre-announce these products too soon because if they're not ready, that's an embarrassment like AirPower was.
Yeah.
For the AirPod Pro and the MacBook Pro, I feel like either one of these products could have been included in the iPhone keynote back in September. These are not new product lines that Apple doesn't know if they could get them out, that Apple doesn't know if they can get them out or not. The new AirPod Pro is coming. They've got that out there already. They got AirPods out there, so it's not like a brand new product. New MacBooks are coming, so it's not like if you announce them at the iPhone keynote that it's going to be delayed. It's coming. We have MacBooks already. This is not new technology. This is not a new product line. So either one of those things could have been included in the September keynote. So I don't know. I just feel like these soft product launches, like I said, they're really trying to experiment with this whole organic growth or not having enough product available for reviewers and things like that. But my thing is, do these soft product launches really help with organic growth? Because whether you announce it at a big event or at a soft event, word of mouth is going to happen regardless either way, and they're going to sell like hotcakes regardless because YouTubers are going to do videos, tech blogs are going to tech blog. I mean, everything's going to happen as a normal cycle anyway. So what is different about the launch between these soft launches and just announcing them at a big event like they would customarily do?
Yeah. So again, I don't think the organic or the soft market, I don't think any of that is really what they're doing. And I think that's like a one person's take on what they're doing. And again, I can understand why they're doing that. I think that pertains more to exploring markets outside of tech influencers. I think that's what that angle about organic growth really means, because they are inviting people who really are outside. And it started with the watch when they started inviting like fashion people to the event. This part is, again, like they could have announced the MacBook Pro at the iPhone event, but then they worry about dilution. The September event is really for them. The iPhone is the moneymaker, and they're willing to do the Apple Watch because the Apple Watch and the iPhone are so connected. But they're not going to put a Mac in that, for example, even for a couple slides, because then the coverage is going to be a bunch of like, oh yeah, sure, people talk about the iPhone, but they didn't write as many articles about the MacBook Pro, or they wrote a couple more articles about MacBook Pro and didn't write as many about the iPhone. And for them, it's always been better to have that October event with the iPad and the MacBook so that each product sort of gets its own love. It's sort of like you got to spend time with each kid. They don't want to say like, oh, here's both kids, here, grandma, grandpa, split your time with them. It's like, here, you can take Mark to the movies today and you can take, Teresa to the movies tomorrow. And that way each kid gets their time.
Right. That makes sense. Like you said, you don't want to, because anything that happens at the iPhone keynote is more than likely going to be overshadowed by the iPhone. So like you said, you want to give those products their individual shine and do it like that. So I can definitely understand that.
I think they would have had an October event if everything had lined up better. I think they just weren't able to line up the stuff that they wanted. Otherwise, I think they would have had one.
Yeah, and I think that makes perfect sense. Like it's just weird when they have these private press briefings and then you got product launches a week later, and this is out of the norm for Apple. So it's like, what's happening here? What's going on?
Well, I mean, they've done it for a long time. Like I don't know if you remember, but they started it, I think, with OS X Lion, where they just invited a bunch of. I did not get invited to that one, but they invited a bunch of tech people there, and they gave them, and that's a lot of resources for them too, because they're telling like 6 people instead of telling like 6,000 people, and then 6 million live. But it lets them sort of do things off schedule. They don't have Yerba Buena rented. They didn't have the Steve Jobs Theater ready. All these things. It just lets them. It lets them give products that aren't critical, that are going to get in like the sales volume they expect anyway, without all the hoopla of like the big event. And if they had the iPads, I think if the iPads had been ready in time, they would have just had that event.
Yeah, like you really can't have an event just for the AirPod Pro or just for the MacBook. So I think I'm apt to agree with you that they didn't have the product ready in a timely manner, and that's why we didn't have an October event. And plus, an October event is not guaranteed every year anyway. It's like almost every other year, or it will happen 2 years in a row, and then it won't happen the third
2 out
year.
of 3.
So, yeah, you just.
And if you think about last year, there was the Vega MacBook Pros, there was the new totally redesigned iPad Pro, which really needed it, and there was updates to like there was enough to fill a show last year. The new Mac Mini, there was like several big, and that's how I always try to think about it. Like you look at it and you go, who's going to be on stage to show it off, and will they have enough to talk about? And if there's not enough things to make an hour and a half, like the last thing I want, and I don't mean this to be disparaging in any way, but the last thing I want is like a Made by Google event where like I'm just listening to people talk on stage for half an hour. what world am I? Because that's just that I don't think that respects the audience's time.
I agree, dude. We definitely don't want no Made by Google events like they're broadcasting from inside of an IKEA and doing things like that. No, thank you. So I got an interesting subject for you while I have you here.
Sure.
Lately, there's been a lot of talk about the Apple ecosystem and how Apple might be too dependent on the ecosystem. And there's talk about how Apple products in an individual vacuum don't match up with their counterparts. But the strength of the ecosystem makes those products infinitely more valuable and more desirable because they are part of the ecosystem. Now, I have tweeted this out a few days ago or last week or something like that, that any product that Apple can launch that directly ties into the iPhone or directly integrates with the iPhone, that product has a chance to dominate in class just because it can integrate or it is integrated with the iPhone because of the strength of the ecosystem and just being how good the ecosystem and how popular the iPhone is, because that's the real thing. The iPhone is the catalyst of the ecosystem, and the iPhone is the most popular smartphone in the world. So, as I just said, anytime Apple can introduce a new product category that directly integrates with iPhone, no matter what it is, it has the chance to dominate in product class. The only product that has been launched recently that kind of fell short of this was the HomePod.
Yeah.
But other than that, Apple Watch is dominating, AirPods dominating. I mean, Apple Music is starting to catch up with Spotify. I mean, everything that is directly integrated or tied to an iPhone has the chance to dominate. So, what are your thoughts on what people are saying about how Apple is becoming too dependent on the ecosystem? Do you believe that, or that's a bunch of much ado about nothing?
I think in a lot of these things, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Like for years, the knock on Microsoft was none of their products work together. Like, you know, you could have your Windows mobile phone and your Xbox and your PC, and they didn't even know the other one existed. And why couldn't Microsoft just tie them together? And it took them years to do that. And they got nothing but analyst hate the entire time. And I think like imagine like Google launched a product that didn't have Google login, you know, or like Amazon launched a product that didn't have Alexa on it. Like Samsung can get away with it because they make everything. They're like Hitachi. They're a conglomerate. Like their dishwashers don't have to work with the Galaxy. Like I'm sure they do. They probably do. But they're like their dishwasher and their refrigerator don't really have to be compelling in terms of a Galaxy Fold tie-in.
Right.
You know, they're probably all going to have what's it called, Bixby at some point. But you know, they're just so big. They make so many. They make toilets and drilling, like and offshore drilling rigs. Totally different company. But I think, you know, it would be to Apple's detriment if things didn't tie in. Launching on the iPhone platform to me is like launching on like the Google platform. Like any product that comes in that you can log in with Google and is tied to your Google account is just infinitely more valuable to you. And any product that comes out from Apple that ties into the iPhone, you know, or to the Mac, to any of Apple's ecosystem plays, they're just infinitely more valuable. And it would be self-destructive not to do that.
Yeah.
I think the products can exist. Like there are a ton of people who use iPhones super happy with a PC every day. I think that's still the majority of iPhone users use PCs, and there's no ecosystem benefit there. So the products can stand on their own. Like the Apple Watch, you know, can't, you know, for obvious reasons, but
right.
A lot of them can. So I think sometimes it's like Apple's not selling enough iPhones. Oh, Apple sold too many iPhones. It's just one of those things where people feel the need to say something, so they pick whatever side they can and say it.
And like you said, if the product didn't tie into the iPhone in some way, like you said, that would be a detriment to Apple. But the reason why the Apple ecosystem is so strong, Rene, is because as of 12 years into the iPhone's life cycle, there hasn't been a company that has an ecosystem that can rival the Apple ecosystem. And until a company can come out and with something that can even compete, because nothing competing right now. So until a company can actually come out and build their own ecosystem that can actually compete with the Apple ecosystem, anything that Apple makes that ties into that ecosystem is going to dominate anyway, because there's no competition in the ecosystem space.
And it's not easy. Like you look at a lot of things. It is really not easy. We've seen Google struggle with tablets. They canceled the Pixel Slate. We've seen Google struggle with Android Wear. They've bought several companies. They've rebooted it a couple times, and they're still struggling with it. Microsoft, you know, they made the Microsoft Band for a while, but they kind of abandoned it. It is really not easy to build one product off another. So when you can do it, that's not something to be worried about. That's something to sort of emulate. You know, I wish everybody would do that.
Yeah, I mean, that would make a lot more of these other non-Apple products more appealing if they like tied in with other products. But like you said, they simply don't, and they can't. Like the Apple products.
Can you imagine, like back in the day, if Microsoft had their crap together and they launched an Office phone and an Xbox, forget Windows, an Office phone and an Xbox phone, and those were on the stands next to the iPhone, and you walked in and you saw something that just like, this is like with a keyboard, this is the best phone for Microsoft Office, and another that had like Gears of War or Halo branding.
Ooh.
That would have been super competitive, and you could get it, and you could like do your it would tie into your games, or it would just be the best way to use your documents or do your presentation. That would have been amazing. That level of integration, it would have killed. It would have like been super competitive with the iPhone and even Android, but they just never did it. They just couldn't get it together.
Especially with Xbox, because back when Xbox was first out in 2001, Xbox was it, man. Everybody
Such
had
a good brand.
Yes, everybody had an Xbox or they wanted an Xbox. Especially with the way Xbox Live worked, that would have been, like you said, that would have been killer had they been able to make that happen back then. No doubt, man.
Forget a Surface phone. The Xbox phone was the moneymaker, and they never did it.
Hey, you're not kidding. You are not kidding. So I see you are wearing the AirPod Pro.
Yes, sir.
I got mine right here. So what do you think about them, man? How they treating you?
I really like them. They work better for me than the original AirPods because of my mangled ears. I would only the left one I used it almost all the time because that's really stayed in well, but the right one never stayed in as well. The left one still stays in better. The right one I have to push back in, every 4 to 10 minutes depending on what I'm doing. I've been using them on planes. I've flown like 4 or 5 times since I got them, and I'm tired enough to prove that. But like the noise cancellation has been good. It's exactly what you said. It's the ecosystem that makes them so good. They just work so well. They switch instantly. Like I had them on my iPhone 5 minutes ago, and I just came here and they linked to my Mac, and I'm talking to you. And it's like they used the best of Bluetooth, worked around all the deficits, and made a product that works really well with all their other products.
And that's what I've been trying to tell people about AirPods for like the last 5 or 6 months. It's not about the sound; it's about the convenience and the integration into the Apple ecosystem. That's why they're the #1 selling earbuds in the world. Because again, when you have a product that ties in directly or integrates directly with iPhone, it's going to dominate. AirPods, perfect example.
Yeah, and I think people got confused in the beginning because they looked at the price tag and they said the sound isn't good enough for this price tag. But it was never about the sound.
Never.
They were putting tiny little computers in your ears. And that was expensive, like accelerometers and the custom silicon. And these are more expensive because they have better custom silicon. You have a 10-core computing chip in your ear. I would have never believed that, like even 2 years ago. And I'm sure these are going to be big artificial reality stuff in a year or two from now. And they've been investing in it. And what's funny to me is that Qualcomm is still struggling to make watch silicon because there's really no market outside of Apple Watch for watches. So they can't really afford to make good watch silicon. They've rehashed their phone silicon twice for watches now. Maybe it'll be better this year, but it's super expensive. And Apple's already shoving computers in our ears. And that's because of the way that they market, we get the advantage. People will follow them. They'll make a bunch of other products like them. But it takes like both crazy cousin Samsung to throw things at the wall on one side and sort of conservative cousin Apple to make these other sort of advances on the other side, and then the entire market moves forward, or crazy cousin Huawei, whatever your preference is. But then the entire market benefits from that sort of early adoption and early investment.
Absolutely, man. We all know that Apple is seen as the industry leader in the mobile market. They removed the headphone jack. Other company followed suit. They put a notch on the iPhone. Other company followed suit. So Apple will definitely lead the trend in the mobile industry for sure.
So many notches. So many notches.
But this brings up something that our buddy Rene Patel said on Twitter a week ago or 2 weeks ago. He accused Apple of having a monopoly or being kind of a monopoly because of how good AirPods are. He said something to the extent of other earbuds can't compete with AirPods. So he accused Apple of having a monopoly with the AirPods. And I'm just like, no, that's not how that works.
I mean, I understand where Neil is coming from, and he's really consistent about that. And he has very strong beliefs about the open market and competition. And I don't think he does it just. Some people do that kind of stuff. They'll say one thing 1 minute, another thing another minute, just to get attention. Neil is not like that. He deeply believes in what he says. But to me, like there's a fine line, and it really depends on your platform. For example, Tesla has exclusive right. Like they're the only ones who can make a display inside a Tesla car. And that's not competitive. Like Samsung can't replace the display in your Tesla car. And things tend to start off that way because it takes the single act of will of a company that's as integrated as an Apple or a Tesla to make those things work. Like I would argue if Bluetooth could be this good, Bluetooth would be this good. It's like Mark Zuckerberg. If you didn't invent Facebook, otherwise you would have invented Facebook. Over time, these things tend to get more global and more universal, but it really takes a lot of proprietary stuff to kick it off. And people will say, like, Google's more open or Amazon's more. No company is open about what makes them money. Like the search algorithm is not open. The YouTube algorithm is not open. Google Play services, they're not open. You tend to keep what you make proprietary and what everybody else makes open source to mess with their business. Like the Safari browser was open source because that's how they could fight back against Internet Explorer. Every company sort of does that. But in the beginning, when you have to invest a lot and you have to sort of push things forward, I think it's fine. I think it's even better for consumers. It's when it stays locked in for like the 10-year period that I think it starts to worry.
But here's my thing, though. Because other companies don't have access to the H1 chip and things like that. That is, like you said, that is proprietary technology. How are you going to bash Apple for making a product so good and people latching onto it so bad and then accuse them of a monopoly because their technology that they made in-house is that good?
No, I get you. And like, how do you make Bluetooth get better if you don't give Bluetooth the competition that comes with the air? Bluetooth could just say, "Oh yeah, here's a new codec for you. Fine, go away." But now it's like, I want this everywhere. I want the AirPod quality Bluetooth experience everywhere, and Bluetooth better start delivering it. Otherwise, I'm going to vote for some of their technology. So to me, again, initially, it helps with competition.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know. That's like somebody renting space in your house and then telling you how to wash your dishes or when to wash your dishes, or telling you that you need to let somebody else come in there and rent space in your house. It doesn't work that way. That's not how this works. And you can't have a monopoly if there's competition out there. The Sony WF-1000 XM3 earbuds are out there. The Sennheisers are out there. Samsung Galaxy Buds are out there. Other buds are out there. It's not like Apple is stifling competition in the earbud space. There are other companies making earbuds. So as long as those other earbuds exist, you cannot have a monopoly. There cannot be an Apple monopoly because the Galaxy Buds exist.
Well, and to your point, those things exist, I think, primarily because of AirPods.
Yeah.
Like I think that we have a wide variety to choose from because Apple pushed the technology forward using every method they could at first, which is why, again, I think in the early days, this stuff is better for competition.
Yes, absolutely. Like you said, the introduction of AirPods opened up a wide array of competitors to try to knock them off the top or maybe compete with them. So, like you said, that does do a lot for competition, which brings on something else that happened last week that kind of irked me. The EU is looking into investigating Apple over antitrust for Apple Pay. What?
Yeah, so again, I get the theory here. So the EU and the two big antitrust geographies are the EU and the USA. Other countries, like if Argentina starts antitrust, people don't worry about it so much. But just because of the size of the EU market and the US market, the US tends to view absolute lowest price as the point of competition. So for example, Apple infamously lost the iBooks lawsuit against Amazon because Amazon was driving down prices. I would argue the US created a monopoly by giving that to Amazon because Amazon was willing to undercut people ruthlessly to create an ebook empire. But the EU tends to look at competition as the barrier, as the point of regulation. So they don't really care what the price is as long as there's multiple people in the industry. And what they're looking at here is that Apple has exclusive access to the NFC capabilities, which is not entirely true. Apple does give one-way access to NFC, but it's not as open as like the NFC chip. You can't, like if you're PayPal or you're Google Pay, you can't use the iPhone the same way. And I think about it in the same terms. It's like Apple Pay is an end-to-end secure solution. And you can have difference of opinions on this. I think that's fine. Like on one end, you can view Apple like Nintendo. Very few people argue that Nintendo is like about. You can't like run Xbox games on a Nintendo and people don't get all upset about it. Like you have to go through Nintendo for everything unless you jailbreak it, which is very similar to the iPhone. You have to go through Nintendo to do everything. And that's fine because we view it as a console. The tension comes with when people view the iPhone as a computer and not a console. And Apple very plainly does not treat it like an open computing platform. But their point of view is just that there's no other version of Pay that you can use on an iPhone. And I think, again, in 10 years from now, that'll be different. And in 10 years from now, if it's not different, maybe it's an issue. But in those first early years, I don't think it's a huge problem.
But here's where I have the problem, though. How can you dictate to Apple how can you dictate to Apple how to use their own platform? iOS and Apple devices are a closed platform. They're not Android. They're not meant to be open source. They built the technology to be closed up and secure. That's part of the allure of using and owning an Apple device is the security because it's a closed platform. It's not meant to be accessed by every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
So including a skimmer in the store, right?
Exactly. So how can the EU mandate that Apple open up the enclave to other companies when the technology isn't designed? It's designed to be more secure. Again, this is all about supposedly stifling competition. But competition isn't stifled. You got Android Pay out there. You got Samsung Pay out there. Every other merchant is making their own payment system. So Apple Pay is not alone. It's not like Apple is stifling the mobile payment competition. Other mobile payment methods exist. So I don't understand the whole antitrust thing when competition exists.
Yeah, so I'm not a big, as you can probably tell, I'm not a big fan of the EU style of regulation. I didn't even like the browser ballot. I thought the browser ballot from Microsoft was beyond ridiculous. Those sorts of things I think and now a lot of the stuff they're doing around YouTube and around all that stuff, I think it's beyond ridiculous. So I'm not a fan of them at all. It comes down to whether you see Apple as the iPhone as part of the smartphone market, or if you choose to see the iPhone as its own market. And sometimes people choose for various reasons to see the iPhone as its own market. And then they want, like, whether it's the US and they want multiple app stores, they don't believe that the platform should own the app store, or it's the EU and they want, Spotify wants access, or Google Pay, or whomever wants access. They could choose to see the iPhone as its own market. And as we've seen, the EU can make what I think is terrible decisions quite often. So this is the kind of thing that concerns me, because they have a lot of power and I don't think they always wield it in a way that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think we see an example of that with Article 13 and the way that's going out, and that's definitely not to the detriment of a lot of creators and up and coming creators and things like that in the EU. So, and actually that have reverberations across the globe, not just in the EU. So, but I just go back to, how can you tell somebody what to do in their own house? Like, the iPhone is Apple proprietary platform. Like, you can't tell Apple how to run the iPhone. And besides, the iPhone isn't the only platform in town. If you don't like Apple Pay, or you want to use something other than Apple Pay, you have an Android Pay, you have a Samsung Pay, you have options out there that are not iPhone.
Yeah, and well, again, like, why can't you run Android Auto or CarPlay on a Tesla? Like, should they be forced by law to let you run the platform you want? And that's going to be a big thing that we're going to have to decide. And I think the EU is going to clamp down hard on that, and I think America won't. And then we're going to have to but we're in a global market now, and none of these people seem to understand that these decisions never exist in a vacuum.
And it's crazy because they say that these practices are antitrust and stifle competition, but I would argue the opposite. These practices and these rulings that you're trying to do to tighten this up, that's what's stifling competition, because now you're giving all these companies a participation trophy instead of making them go out there and go back into the lab and work on developing technologies that can rival or better Apple, instead of letting them have their piece of the apple pie. What is that? How does that encourage competition?
Well, competition is a funny thing. Like, if you look at Android, for example, Android is so good and so free that we don't get other smartphone operating systems anymore. Like, just a few years ago, there was Windows Mobile and WebOS and BlackBerry and BlackBerry 10 and iPhone. And it was like a golden age. But because Android was so good and so free, when Facebook wanted to make a phone, they just use Android. When Amazon wants to make a phone, they just use Android. If there was no Android, there would be an Amazon OS and there would be a Facebook OS. And I know people keep trying with Linux, but it never gets any far. And at what point do they say, oh, please make your stuff worse and more expensive so that other companies are forced to create operating systems? I don't see how, when you do the reductio ad absurdum, like, I just don't see, I don't see how the EU's logic holds up.
I don't think anybody's logic holds up with this whole antitrust thing. I think Apple is just an easy target because they're the biggest and they're the most mainstream. So it's easy for other companies to target Apple since they're the leader in a lot of these categories. So, hey, there's Apple.
We also see there's also this false, people see it's very easy to see vertical lock-in. Like, if you have an iPhone, you could only do this, or like iMessage is only on the iPhone, but horizontal lock-in has the same potential to affect customers. Like, if I buy something on Amazon, there's no guarantee I can ever look at it I can't decide I want to watch that in the Google Play viewer instead. And when you see Amazon and Google fight, you can't have YouTube. Oh yeah, well then you can't have Amazon Prime. I've bought that and now I can't watch it on the device I want to watch it on. So I think it's false to sort of paint one as better than the other, when as long as you have big companies who have big politics, the consumer is never going to win that thing. We're always subject to the whims and desires of those companies.
It's funny because me and TechRant were talking about this just last night, about how he wants companies to be more upfront about why they charge what they charge for their products. And I was explaining to them, I'm like, companies are not going to do that, because then you're asking companies to put their weaknesses on display at a product presentation. And I'm like, nobody's doing that. That would be like going to a job interview and telling your potential employer your weaknesses. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that.
Like, one of my pet peeves is when somebody says a product shouldn't cost this, And it may or may not be true, but often the people who say that, they've never worked in product delivery. Like they have no idea how expensive it is to make something, and whether you make 100,000 of them versus 1 million of them, what the costs are, and whether you use this screen technology or that screen technology. We have this innate sense of, I think what they mean is, I'm not willing to pay this much for it, which I think is fine. But when we talk about like how much it should cost, or if one company is willing to sell something at a loss because they make it up in some other way, that's very different than a company who only has profits in one thing. And we end up loving a lot of these companies to death because they struggle so hard to please us. They're not profitable anymore. They can't pay their employees. They can't pay their venture capitalists, and they go away. And it would also, like, a lot of these products would cost a lot more if they had to be made like in the USA and other, like in some ways we are ridiculously privileged to have the prices that we have from any company. And I don't think that will last very long either. So it's one of those things where it's often more complex than what it's quickly reduced down to in reviews.
Not to mention that in the US next year, we have to deal with these tariffs, these import tariffs. So that could be interesting to see how Apple handles that.
So far, they're eating them, and I don't know how long they can continue doing that. But Apple is smart in that they do charge a premium. Like they get 30% margins. Those margins have gone down. Like everyone says, Tim Cook is like just out to scrape off money. Profits are down since the Jobs era. They're spending a lot more. They're reinvesting a lot more money in the company, and their profit margin in general is way down. But they are an incredibly solvent company. A lot of companies that I love, like I love HTC deeply. Some of my favorite technology has come from HTC, and they've just zero profit margin themselves into destruction.
Yep, you are correct. We thought with the iPhone 11 this year, Apple dropped the price by $50, and it's been eating world so far.
But I mean, those phones got easier to, like, cheaper to make. Like one of the other things that's funny is, like, I just want the new iPhone SE that's coming out is based on the iPhone 8 platform, which is basically paid for. Like Apple has zero real costs, or the costs are negligible to keep making iPhone 8 class devices. But it's still super expensive to make iPhone 10 class devices, which are why those prices are high. Like Samsung charges them through the nose for those OLED panels, and that Face ID sensor is still super expensive. And if you were to make a new, like some people want an iPhone 10 that's really small, but then that would be as expensive as an iPhone 10, and they'd have to re-engineer the silicon because the current silicon takes up a lot of, it's hot, and you need a much bigger device to power and dissipate it. So like there's all these things that go into the more than just, I want this sort of, like, I know you want it, I would like it too, but the reality is some of the stuff is just technically hard or infeasible at any given time.
Yeah, especially with the way the pricing goes. I mean, like I said, it's not always possible to get all the tech that you want packed into a device because of pricing and availability and how developed the tech is. Some of the tech is not developed enough to be put on smartphones or put in a particular feature. I mean, just look at the first iteration of Project solely on the Pixel. It is very, very limited. And that technology can do a lot more than what Google has on that Pixel 4. So,
well, even like the early Amazon tablets had TFT screens before Apple did, because you could make 10,000, and that's all Amazon was selling, but you couldn't make 10 million, which is what Apple needed to sell.
Right. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the brand spanking new 16-inch MacBook Pro. You've been using one for a little while, so what are your thoughts on the MacBook Pro?
I'm using it right now. I'm talking to you on it right now.
Oh, there you go. There we go.
It checks off a lot of the boxes. Not every box that I had, but it checks off a lot of the boxes that I wanted. It's got the new keyboard, which has a separate escape key, an inverted T arrow key. Went back to scissor switches instead of the butterfly switches, which I actually really like typing on those, but they were just too error prone, and too many people hated them. Like I've said this before, but if you're Microsoft, you can make an experimental keyboard, and if people don't like it, they'll just go buy an HP or a Dell or a Lenovo. It's fine. But only Apple makes MacBooks. So if you make an experimental keyboard and people don't like it, they have no choice. And you can't do that if you're only one vendor. So I like it. But like, when they announced 8 terabytes and 64 gigabytes, like, as someone who makes YouTube videos, it just blew my mind. Yeah. Like you could just, if only they had the only thing that really, I would like a Wi-Fi 6, but the camera, the FaceTime camera is 720p still. And if it just had a 4K camera, I could use this, or like we could do these things. We could do a bunch of our talking head videos right on this computer if we were like traveling and we had you're at Starbucks and you're like, holy crap, Google just bought Samsung. Slap that thing down, do your whole video, you'll get it up.
Right there.
And as it is now, like the microphone is good now, but the camera is just not good enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's just a cost-cutting measure by Apple, more or less. I don't think they want to put a better camera in the MacBook just because of just to save cost, man. I think it's cost-cutting more than anything because everything else is spec'd out in that machine. There's no reason why that 720p camera is still there. What is really going on?
I mean, the easy answer is they don't want a bump, like a really good camera. And I would be willing to take a bump, like just hide it in the trackpad. It'd be fine for me. But like other people they would lose their minds if there was a bump. And the other thing is, I don't think they thought about people doing video for production on a MacBook, which blows my mind because they thought about people using the microphone. And to me, the same logic applies. Like I think for them, it's still, oh, you can do your conference call on it. But like, I want to do so much more than just a conference call on it.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy because it's called the MacBook Pro. It's supposed to be for prosumers. Oh, that omission, that oversight is kind of perplexing, given that the device is supposed to be aimed at people that need to get more work done on the MacBook Pro. It's Pro, for God's sake.
Yep. Yeah, no, totally. But I always think like every Apple device has to have one thing that drives you nuts. If it doesn't have one thing that drives you nuts, it's not a proper Apple device.
But I think people will get past the camera very quickly.
Yeah.
But what they really need to do on these MacBook Pros, and it sounds like from what you're saying they did, is fix the keyboard. The keyboard needed to be addressed. There's no way they could have came with the same old keyboard on these brand new MacBook Pros. There's just no way. And finally, they addressed it. They fixed it, hopefully. And now we can get away from the whole keyboard saga because it's getting old.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really nice. To me, it's the best of both worlds because it has the scissor switch. But, I kind of didn't like the way it was loosey-goosey before. After using the butterfly keyboards and even the Magic keyboard, when I would go back to my old MacBook Pro, it just felt loose, like it would just shake a little bit, and I didn't like it. And this is very stable compared to the old one. So I'm hoping it's the best of both worlds.
No doubt. So podcasting says, how is Rene so well researched on everything surrounding Apple? Because his life is covering Apple. How long have you been covering Apple now? Probably what, 10 years?
Since 2008, yeah.
Yeah, 11 years. Like I've been following him for almost as long as he's been covering Apple. So
yeah, you're old school, man. I love it.
I am definitely old school. So there's a reason why he is well researched because he lived, breathed, sleeps Apple, and he's been doing it for over 10 years. So that is how you become Rene Richie.
No, but like I want, my thing is like I want to be, and right is the wrong. I want to get this stuff right. Like I think it's easy just to have an opinion, but I want to make sure that a month from now, 3 months from now, a year from now, I can go back and say, I didn't phone it in.
Oh, absolutely. Like you said before, we hate being wrong on the internet, man. They will eat us alive.
Yeah. And just for my own, and I know I've seen you do the same thing, like just for ourselves, we don't tolerate getting things wrong. Like we hate it. Like it burns us up inside.
Because I was talking about this. I think actually our buddy John Prosser talked about this a lot. Being right is important as creators, as people who give information out to consumers, to other creators, things like that. We have to be right. If we're not right, we don't have credibility. And the number one thing that connects us as tech creators with our audiences is credibility. They have to be able to come to us and trust what we say to make their purchasing decisions or whatever decisions they want to make, or just to find out more information about a product in particular. We have to be right. If we're wrong, then what the hell are they doing watching us?
Phil says, Greg's Gadget says the Phil's coffee that keeps me going, and I'm actually drinking Phil's coffee right now. Well played, Greg's Gadget.
Boom, boom. So it's been a while since me and you had a conversation, so I have not been able to talk to you about the best phone of 2019, the iPhone 11 Pro Max and 11 Pro in general. I know you got one on the table somewhere because this is what we do. So every time you do an iPhone video, Rene, you always say that it's the best iPhone ever made, but that has a whole different meaning this year. This is literally the best iPhone ever made, and it's the best smartphone, in my opinion, of 2019. I have not been able to say that about an iPhone in a long time, but this year, there's no other smartphone topping this smartphone. Why is this iPhone so good, Rene?
Yeah, so I think Apple doesn't make a lot of phones. Like if you look at Samsung, they make so many phones every year. I don't even think people in North America really appreciate how many phones they make that you don't even see in North America. And you could argue, like, is the Note better than the S? Is it better than the A? And people can have legitimate arguments about that. Apple makes very few phones. So if the phone isn't better than last year's, they have screwed up in such a way that they don't deserve the company anymore. Like it's got to at least be better than last year. And I get that. It was funny. When I left I was at LaGuardia, and there's these giant posters up for the Porsche 911, and it says the new Porsche 911. And I just felt like being a tech blogger and walk by going, boring. Just keep going because it still looks like a 911. It doesn't have a shark's fin or anything this year. But yeah, I mean, they have a very particular attitude that I think hurts them for a lot of reviewers, where the iPhone 5S was different at like an atomic level from the iPhone 5, and the iPhone 6S was different at like an atomic level, like the material, the aluminum, the glass, the internals, like they were all completely different. But Apple made them look the same. They went out of their way to make them look the same because they believed that those designs were the best designs at the time. And other people would say, "Oh, it looks the same," and Apple's like, "Yes, because we think that's right." It's like, you know, like we're not going to make a sneaker look like a giant. Like a waffle for no reason. You know, it's got to look like a sneaker. You know, a Porsche got to look like a Porsche. So I think they have that working against them. It's just their general attitude for we're not going to change the way it looks until we have a reason to change the way it looks. This year, though, I think the functionality is so good. Like you still hear people go, "Oh, it looks the same," you know, sort of like dismissively. When in fact it's one of the reasons it's so good is because it does look the same. It gave Apple silicon and photography teams 2 years to target that form factor and those thermals and that constraint and those depth and that, you know, that whole imaging pipeline. And they got to make it a little bit better with the 10S, and they got to make it a lot better with the 11. Like everything from how those cameras work. It's not that they just made a good camera. It's like year after year. With the iPhone 7, they added a DCI P3 pipeline all the way through. I don't think very many companies have that. They added custom silicon renderers. So other companies still have a hard time rendering like portrait mode live or night mode live. And Google just added a whole separate processor to render HDR Plus live. And Apple's been doing that for 2-3 years now. So everything we got now, it's taken them several years to build up. And I think we're seeing the payoff with just how good these cameras are. And I like the Pixel is fantastic too, but the Pixel tends to give you the best, like the most consistent photo. Like Google will take that photo and make it look like a Pixel photo almost no matter what, which is different than how a traditional camera works. Apple, sometimes it's not as good as a Pixel, sometimes it's better, but every time it still looks to me like an actual camera took that photo. And that to me is super impressive when you're dealing with something that small.
Absolutely. But it, like I said, when I did my review, it is just something about this particular iPhone that just nails everything this year, from the build quality to the big batteries that they finally put in iPhones, because we know Apple has been notorious for putting not the best batteries in these phones, but this year they finally said the hell with it. We're going to put actual quality batteries in here, and they have made a world of difference. The display brightness is through the roof, the improved water resistance, the build quality. Yeah. I mean, this iPhone right here is something else. Like I said, usually in my world, the Galaxy Note would be the smartphone of the year. For the last 2 years, it's been my smartphone of the year. But not this year, baby. The iPhone has finally came up and snatched it. And like you were just talking about the pictures with the Pixel, I believe that this is a better camera overall than the Pixel. This takes better still photos than the Pixel in a lot of instances. Now, where it does falter, I would say, is the portrait mode, because nothing is touching the Pixel portrait mode. I'm sorry, not even his iPhone. But everything else, iPhone wins for me.
Yeah, so the portrait mode, my problem with the portrait mode is still that it's not live. So like if I'm taking a portrait mode picture of you with the iPhone, I can quickly see if like your ear, your headphone, your sunglasses, if the algorithm is not grabbing those properly, and I can move a little bit and then take the shot. Where the Pixel mode has more of a chance of getting it right, but it also still messes up. And then I've got to like go to the photo, wait, oh crap, Viper's glasses, take another shot, crap, Viper's glasses, take another, and I don't have time for that. I just want to see it, move, shot I want, press the button, and then go back to Starbucks.
No, I completely agree with you, but the only problem is that the edge detection on these iPhones isn't nearly as good as the Pixel. That's just what it is. But
the segmentation masking that Google does is much, much better.
No doubt, but everything else, man, obviously iPhone video is king. iPhone video has been king for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, nothing touching iPhone video. The iPhone actually has an ultra wide angle lens. Google, ultra wide angle lens. Google, figure it out.
The thing that bugs me, like I've been shooting with the Pixel a lot. Like I've had a Pixel 4 for almost a month now. I've been shooting with it a lot. It's just little confounding things. Like you said, it won't do 4K 60, but YouTube plays 4K 60. And Google won't release YouTube in H.265 in HEVC, but the Pixel only does high efficiency in HEVC. It doesn't use VP9. You know, it doesn't use Google stuff. It uses the comment stuff. And I'm like, don't you talk to each other?
They don't. They don't.
Like, just give me both. Like, make both things do both things, and I'll be super happy. That's like, again, like the ecosystem you talked about. Just your Google, you can do this.
Seriously, how is it that your phone doesn't support 4K 60, but people are putting 4K 60 on your very own YouTube platform?
I cannot make a Michael Fisher video for YouTube using Google's own phone.
That is the most damning thing right there. You cannot make a Mr. Mobile video on the Pixel phone for YouTube.
I did say that because the man loves it 60 frames per second.
Seriously, what world are we in when Google doesn't even support the format that they on their phone that they support on their YouTube platform? I don't know. It's weird.
Well, again, it's not easy. Like a lot of times, like innovation to me is one of the most misused words on the internet because people, what they often mean is like, oh, it's an impressive little gimmick, and I think that's fine. But like when you look at how hard it is, like Google, I think the real reason is that they can't use their HDR plus pipeline at a 60 frame per second stream for video yet, and they would rather not do it than not do it to the best of their abilities. But that just shows that, Apple's been able to do that for 2 years already, and they've been investing in those things, and everyone says, Apple's not innovating, and you look like the Pixel 3 could not save photos reliably. Like it literally took really great photos, could not reliably save them, where Apple made a custom storage controller that made sure you never missed a shot. And that's like, you may not be able to see it, but that's innovation that matters to people. And I'm glad that a lot of people are catching up to that now, but they're all innovating in their own ways. So I hate the misuse of the term innovation.
But the whole thing about the Pixel not supporting 4K 60 is all the more embarrassing when you consider that all the Samsung Galaxy devices do support 4K 60, and they're using the same silicon, as you say, as the Pixel.
They just don't do HDR plus. Like they don't run it through an HDR plus process, and that's the thing I think that's killing Google on 60.
Yeah. Like I said, when Samsung is doing it and you're not, and you're using the same Snapdragon 855 processor, it looks a little crazy, Rene. It looks a little crazy.
They could do it, but it would not look like Pixel video. And I think that they would rather it was sort of so this is slightly deeper, but Google does not use great hardware. Like they've never used great hardware. You look at like Samsung quality hardware, Huawei quality hardware. Those the optics on those phones are so good. Even Apple doesn't use like as good optics as Huawei, but they use good enough optics. Like they're doing a lot of the work with the actual glass, and Google really isn't. They have like commodity. A lot of their stuff is real commodity stuff, but their software and their algorithms are so good that they can outshoot a lot of high-end glass. But when you get to the edge cases, it shows. And like, part of me just wishes, and especially if you're going to charge $800, just like get the best camera sensor you can and put it on there and then add your algorithms, because then you'd have the best of both worlds.
Seriously. And that's another big thing about the Pixel 4 this year, the pricing. When you consider what the iPhone can do at $700, what the Galaxy S10e can do at $700 or $50 or whatever, and then Google coming in at $800 with the Pixel 4 with that poachy battery, the no 4K and 60, and everything else that the Pixel 4 is missing compared to competition, it just makes it that much more embarrassing, man. They got to do better.
You're gonna laugh, but like I always test battery with Pokemon Go events, because nothing I know yeah, it's GPS all the time, screen on all the time, data all the time. It's the most abusive thing I can ever find on a phone. And I took them both out for the last event. And the Pixel 2, I don't have the XL because I'm using the smaller iPhone most of the time, so I got the smaller Pixel. It didn't last the event. It tapped out after like 3 hours 30 minutes, and the iPhone went to like 5 hours 15 minutes.
Yeah,
I finished the event.
The Pixel 4 battery life is atrocious. They only put like a 2800 milliamp hour battery in the Pixel 4. The 4 XL is better, but the Pixel 4, the smaller one, the battery life, I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's not all peaches and roses on the iPhone side, because some people were talking about in the chat here, the RAM management in iOS 13 has been suspect up until the latest update. It's gotten better with the latest update, but before the latest update, oh my Lord, the RAM management was atrocious, man. Whew.
Yeah. iOS 13 in general has been like just a hot mess. Like they were so good with iOS 12, so solid. And I think they tried to because with iOS 12, they're like, we're going to only do half as much. We're going to push away other stuff, and everyone's going to work on making optimizing performance and optimizing reliability. And I was so hoping that would be the new normal. And I think with iOS 13, they're like, oh, let's make up for lost time, people. And they should know by now that you can't do that. Just do half as much twice as well.
But
I would pay good money every year.
In their defense, though, iOS 13 isn't nearly as bad as iOS 11. Let's not get it twisted.
I mean, there's been a couple. Like iOS 8 was brutal, and people forget. They're like, we can get into this in a minute, but like Johnny Ive would never, is the new Steve Jobs would never. But like the iPhone 3G shipped with a bug that stopped it from using 3G. There was a bug so bad on one of the early iOS releases that they could not update it. They had to push down an app that you had to run on the phone in order for it to take the update. And like people forget, like humans are like that. It's like if we remembered old pain, we'd never do anything again. So our brains block out old pain, and current pain feels like the worst. But like, there's always been these kinds of problems. But it feels like iOS 13 was like an own goal in many ways. Like it didn't have to be this way.
Yeah, I think it was funny because I thought was that we were getting to the point. I can't talk. As we were leading up to the month and days until iOS 13, the public version was released, there were developers consistently complaining about things not being there in iOS 13 or things not being as smooth and functional as
or
they
just
should
iCloud
be.
not working.
Yeah, that too. There were developers complaining openly on Twitter about this.
Yep.
I mean, there were some developers who thought that iOS 13 wouldn't even be shipped with the newer iPhone. They thought that they would still be on iOS 12 because of the things that were missing in 13. But yeah, the iOS 13 has been a buggy mess. And like I said, in my opinion, it has not been as bad as iOS 11, but it's been buggy for sure.
Well, one of the things also is that both Android and iOS are so complicated now that there's not just a bug. Like it's not like Viper has the same bug as me, has the same bug as Marquez, has the same bug as Justine. Like it doesn't work that way. It's like it is so dependent on the apps you have installed and the settings that you have that 1% or 2% of people have this bug, 5% have that bug, but 5% of the iPhone ecosystem is an enormous number of people, and it's even more frustrating because it's like chaos math or butterfly effect to try to figure out all these bugs, and that's the sort of thing that why I liked iOS 12 so much, because I just saw a comment in the YOLO Pyop 2 said that after a few weeks, Pixel 4 battery gets better. So that's both true and false. Like Apple does that too. They do artificial intelligence to predict and sort of preload what they think you're going to do. And then if they're right, it's much faster and more efficient. And if they're wrong, it's just like a normal, they just throw it away and do what they would normally do when you load up something. But the problem is that only works for like bursty workflows. Like if you're quickly moving between apps, but if you want to like play a bunch of Pokemon Go, like I did, or you want to watch a bunch of YouTube videos, there's no AI in the world that'll help that because you're just smashing that battery constantly. So it kind of gets better, but not for any intense use case. And if it doesn't survive, like if I'm on a plane and I can't watch a movie for 3 or 4 hours, that's a problem.
No, that's definitely a problem. That's definitely a problem. So
so the Jonathan Ive thing, it's like the new MacBooks. Jonathan Ive would never make the new MacBooks thicker. He made the iPhone 6S thicker. Like they'll do it when there's a good reason to do it. Like whether you're adding waterproofing or increasing battery, as long as they won't intentionally make it thicker because they really believe that lightness is a user benefit. Like if you're sitting there with an iPhone, and people make fun of like, oh, you have spaghetti. No, but if you ask like a normal person, like someone who's 60 years old or a kid to hold up an iPhone for an hour, that's work. And, if you can't hold it up long enough to read your book, to play your video game, to watch your movie, that's bad usability. So they want the devices to be light, and a side effect of lightness is thinness. But if it comes down to extra waterproofing or extra battery sometimes, they're willing to trade off on that. So like the Johnny Ive would never thing to me is just as terrible as the Steve Jobs would never, because you can always find a time when they did.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Apple seems to be adjusting more to what the market is, or I shouldn't say, they're adjusting more to what the feedback that they're getting from the market. The market is saying that these Apple devices need to be thicker to accommodate the features that people need to work. I mean,
totally.
if you're not giving the people what they need to work, then you got a problem. And Apple is doing a great job at finally listening to people and listening to their needs and adjusting and making these products thicker and better. Like we got thicker battery, or we got a thicker iPhone because of a bigger battery. We have been complaining about iPhone batteries since the beginning of time, and finally they adjusted them, and it's been to our benefit. So I am all about the devices being thicker if it means a better user experience.
Well, so I agree with you completely. Like for the last 3 or 4 years, every review I've put in with the battery is like, you need to make the battery better because when Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone and the iPad, he's like, this will give you 10 hours of web browsing. And, that was like people reading the New York Times is what people did back then. But now people have like Snapchat and Instagram and Pokemon Go and all these games that just hit the processor so hard, much harder than they used to. And for a while, Apple's answer was, let's just make things more efficient. And then the same battery will last longer. And yes, that's true, but it's the same thing I said about the Pixel. If you're just hammering it, that the efficiency doesn't help anymore. You've got to actually do both. And the iPhone, what makes the iPhone 11 so great is that they have much more efficient chipset, a much more efficient display, and a bigger battery. And when you put those three things together, it's magic. Like, this thing will last me all day. And Fisher just dropped his I keep referring to Fisher today. He's ghosting me. He just dropped his iPhone 11 Max review. He gets 2 days out of that thing. And I don't use it as often, but it lasts forever. It's great. I forget to plug it in.
No doubt. I just watched Travis MTP's video about his 1 week with the iPhone. He's saying the same thing. He gets like 2 days worth of battery.
Yeah.
And I'm experiencing pretty similar. I don't really check it that much, but the battery life is like amazing. So I am all about this awesome battery.
Yeah, when you start, it's beginning to be like an iPad where it lasts long enough that I forget to plug it in.
Hey, that is a beautiful problem to have, isn't it, though?
Yeah, totally.
So we gotta talk about the morning show, Rene. Oh my God, the morning show is the best show on streaming television going right now, in my opinion.
All right, tell me why.
Oh my God. I mean, okay, so I've watched every episode I haven't watched this week yet, but I watched the first 4. And oh man, it's just the story, the plot, the acting, it's all like A1 to me. And it's not what I expected. Honestly, I expected some dry news show and with big star power, and Apple was gonna try to rely on their big star power, but no. I was pleasantly wrong. This show, Rene, is so deep. The storylines, the plot, the issues that all these characters are facing and going against. It makes for compelling television. This is the best show on streaming services right now, Rene. What are your thoughts on the morning show?
So it took me a while to warm up. So I started really liking it with episode 3. I haven't seen 4 or 5 yet because I jumped around. I watched C and I watched Dickinson, and then I watched The Mandalorian yesterday. But I like a lot of things about it. I was expecting more of an Aaron Sorkin vibe, but I got over that quickly because it's not the newsroom. People shouldn't expect it to be the newsroom. That was a very different vibe. The first episode, I thought like the dialogue wasn't nailed. The patter, the banter wasn't like nailed. That got way better like in episode 2 and 3. It's like the whole thing started gelling. The one thing that I miss is that, and this is just a stylistic choice, it's all main plot. Like there's one story that everything is happening. And I sort of wish there were a couple, not side plots, because I don't want to get distracted, but I can only imagine like they're dealing with this stuff and like 18 other stressors every day, because like a morning show is tough. There's like, Trump is tweeting, obviously, every day. There's all sorts of news happening. Like people are in a microphone. There's like the whole fake news movement going on. Like there must be 800 other things that are stressing them. And I'd like to see sort of, and they did play up the ratings thing, like the ratings battle a little bit.
Right.
That part I'm interested in. Like I love the main plot. I just want to see them just nail on that pain. Like just keep upping that pain ante on them.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, there is a little bit of side plot going on, but it's very subtle and it's not really. You could tell they're just throwing it in there for like throwing it in there. Like Alex, the relationship with her family, and Bailey, and the relationship with her mother and brother, and things like that. So there are subtle side plots going on. At the same time, it's the main plot, but like you said, it's main plot heavy focus, it's main plot driven. Everything, like you said, is happening around that main plot. I don't want to give too much away for the people that haven't watched it yet, but the main plot, like you said, is the focus. But I do wonder, as you seem to be wondering, I do wonder if they're going to explore these subplots more than what they already have, because they really haven't explored them much at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's all the Apple TV stuff so far, like the one, like Disney Plus, I think is terrific. But it's always only ever going to be Disney Plus. And by that, I mean, like, if you prefer Star Trek to Star Wars, if you prefer DC to Marvel, if you just want a wide variety of stuff, they're never going to be Netflix. You're going to get Disney stuff. Right. Like, it's great Disney stuff, but not everybody likes Disney, and not everybody wants Disney all the time. Where, like, I feel like Netflix and what TV Plus is so far is a much greater variety. Like, they have the morning show and C, and like that Muppet thing, and like, like they have a really wide variety of stuff, and it's not brand dependent. Like Disney stuff feels very branded, like it is Star Wars or it is Marvel, and I will watch a lot of that. But it's nice to watch other stuff too, and I think TV Plus for all mankind, like it's just giving us a really wide range of different stuff to watch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think somebody commenting that even though there's a lot of content on Disney Plus, the original content is not really much to write home about besides The Mandalorian. But like you said, with Apple TV Plus, we get a wide variety of original content from the morning show to For All Mankind to See. And okay, so I don't know how much of See have you watched. I really couldn't get past episode 1, man. I mean, does it get better? Because I'm not digging
I've
it right now.
watched the first 3, and I
Okay.
still find like the whole stuff with the Queen is real cringy. Jason Momoa is good, and he gets much more multifaceted in the 3rd episode. But it was Steve Aquino who does like a lot of the accessibility stuff reporting. He started talking about all the research they did on people who were blind, but also like what that would look like at a cultural level if everybody was blind. And it was so fascinating to me that I ended up watching it, not just for the story, which, you know, I'm not sure about yet, but just like the way that they show people dealing in a sightless world is fascinating. And I always think back to like Seinfeld wasn't a hit until the 2nd season. Cheers wasn't a hit till the 2nd season. So like with the morning show, I didn't just watch the first episode and go hell nah, or watch like See. Like I'm going to watch all of these and maybe I'll like them. Dickinson is Crazy Pants. It's a historical drama with people talking like millennials. It's like a Merchant Ivory movie meets like a Cardassian family thing.
I need to watch that.
Like there's no reason that should exist, but it's kind of charming, you know. And
right?
I've watched the first 3. Maybe it's not going to hold up, but people were afraid that Apple would be so controlling that we would get like whitewashed everything. And See has like full of sex and violence, and Dickinson is just Crazy Pants. And so I'm really happy we're not getting
and the morning show has profanity within the first 10-15 minutes of the show, though. Yeah.
Samuel Jackson is going, what, when he's watching that show?
Right. Yep. For real. So this is definitely not your grandpa's Apple that we're watching with these TV shows. They are definitely opening it up, which is good. You got to open it up if you want to be successful in this kind of genre.
Yeah, no, totally.
All right. So how much of The Mandalorian have you watched?
Just the first one. I watched the first one last night.
Oh, how about that? I don't want to spoil it away, but that ending, Rene. That ending, right?
Well, so in the beginning, like, again, I thought the dialogue was a little clunky and I was missing the John Williams score because I just associate John Williams so much with Star Wars. But like the vibe is so cool. It's like I got a bit of an Old West vibe, but a real Star Wars vibe. And they put in all these little Easter eggs. So like it's new but familiar. And by the end, I really, and like, you know, my friend Georgia Dow, she's been on the iMore show a lot. She will not watch things twice. She will not update apps and she will not watch things twice. And she watched it again right afterwards. I was like, wow.
Wait. Georgia doesn't update app?
Yeah, she takes forever to update. She's like, you'll go on her phone and be like 164 unupdated apps. And she does it because she's always afraid an update's going to screw things up. But then then it won't work anymore. And I'm like, just update, please. Just update.
Yeah, like how does she work with you and not update her app? How does that better let her know, Renee? You gotta let her know.
I don't know.
But yeah, the only thing that I don't really like about Apple TV Plus is that they're doing this whole weekly episodic thing. I love the Netflix model where you can just binge everything. They just drop everything on you. But I've been told that the whole season of Dickinson has actually been dropped. But everything else is happening bi-week, every week, which is kind of odd. I don't know why they're doing one show that way and the rest of the content bi-weekly. But
I think a lot of them have a Game of Thrones fetish. Like they think that if they just do it the same way Game of Thrones did it, people will sit around a water cooler and talk about it. You know, did you see this week's Mandalorian? And like in some ways it works. Like, did you see this week's Mandalorian? It's happening already. But I when I get involved, I just want to binge. Like I would have sat there and watched the entire morning show completely through if I'd had the opportunity.
Yes, I agree. I am a binger. I don't want to wait week to week for episodes. Give it all to me now. This is why Disney Plus is not going to really overthrow Netflix as long as they have this weekly episodic, or Apple TV Plus for that matter. As long as they have this weekly episodic thing, you're not messing with Netflix, baby, because the binge quality is legit. And a lot of us like to binge.
Yeah, but the one thing where I think they both get it right is they're just the quality is so good. Like the bit rate, the HDR, it's so pristine looking compared to a lot of other streaming services. It's just beautiful. You put those up on a TV and it's like, wow. And I wish every service was that good in terms of just the visual quality.
Yeah, definitely. No doubt. So Donna says, so not all the movies and selections on Disney are Disney type. But I think that's what we're trying to say though. I think everything that's on Disney Plus is inside of Disney brand. You're not going to get nothing off brand with them. So it's all going to be mostly family friendly for the most part, geared toward kids, things like that. It's going to be on brand with Disney. Nothing is really going to be outside of the Disney brand. Whereas with Apple TV Plus, you're getting a whole range of content, and it's not really brand defined. It's just genre defined more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that sort of bugs me still is like, again, you go to Spotify, you get all the music. You go to Apple Music, you get all the theoretically all the music. They have slightly different catalogs, and some stuff's not on there, but mostly you can get almost any popular song from the last many years. That just doesn't exist for video. You've got to subscribe to all these different services. And like companies like Warner Brothers, like, we're going to announce HBO Max, but we're going to keep DC Universe around. So if you want to actually watch DC stuff, it'll be half on this one and half on that one. And you got to subscribe to. And I want them to get their acts together, because I unify, like I get it. I get that each studio wants their own money, but can you imagine if music worked that way? Oh, Viper, you got to subscribe to Warner Music to get this. You got to get Sony Music to get the Beatles. You got, the U2 is big enough. You got to subscribe to U2 separately. I mean, come on now.
That will be a tragedy for real.
Yeah, and that's what we're putting up with video right now.
Yeah, it's like you said, everybody wants to make their own money, and like I kind of joked a few times, at the rate we're growing, we're going to be right back into the cable bundle with all these different subscription services. They're going to add up as the brand want to add more and more. These brands want to make their own services and do their own thing and make their own money direct to consumer. You're going to end up like having all these different services total up in price, and you're going to get subscription fatigue real quick. And it's just going to be like, okay, so when you look at the totality of what you're paying for, damn, I was paying as much when I had cable. So what are we talking about here?
Yeah, we were talking about this on the iMore show earlier today. It's like, I made this analogy. It's like the vampire Lestat. Like his basic rule was any human given an informed choice would always choose to become a vampire, and any vampire would do anything to become human again. And that's sort of like what I feel with this stuff. Anybody who has a bundle would do anything for a la carte, and anyone who gets the real bill for a la carte would do anything to get a bundle back.
Seriously. But I will say the one advantage that this streaming model has over anything cable is no contract, and you can cancel anytime. So you can mix and match. If there's a show on Netflix that you want to watch, you can subscribe to Netflix, watch that show, unsubscribe, and then sign up for a different service, or just not have Netflix for that particular time. There's no contract. You can pay month to month. So that is the distinct advantage that these services have over the typical cable bundle, is that you can just mix and match as you go. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So yeah. So what else is left happening in 2019, Rene? I think we're pretty much done for the big technological stuff, right? I don't think anything else is happening this year.
I hope. I mean, is someone gonna have an event in December? I don't know. I hope we're done.
You have been cranking them out, man. You have just been like a machine over there, video after video after video, man. So shout out to you.
Oh, thank you, man. I'm trying to keep up with you guys. I got a lot to learn still. I still feel like I'm making so many newbie mistakes. It really, I look at them and I go, I forgot to do that. That's so simple. Why?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see many mistakes in your content, dude.
I'm trying, man. Right now I'm working real hard on B-roll, because I'm looking at all that B-roll up there and I'm like, they make it look so good.
You gotta be careful with that though, because you don't want to be doing B-roll just for the sake of doing B-roll. You don't want to be copying people's content. You gotta do your own thing. And the way you've been doing it, it's been pretty well. Actually, it's funny. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, most of the time, absolutely. But like when I have to review like a new MacBook Pro and there's like a deadline, and I know people just want to see the keyboard or they just want to see something, and I'm like, my reflection's in it again. The reflection on my iPhone is in it again. I'm doing that, and then I look at like, you look at like Marquez's, and I'm not by any way comparing myself to Marquez. Like you just look at, or like Jonathan's shot of that MacBook Pro go by. And I'm like, I just need that shot for my review. I don't need many of them, but I just need a couple shots to show people what it looks like.
No doubt, man. Zach, thank you for the super chat, Mr. Zach Talk Tech. I appreciate it. Zach, our Canadian buddy, is busy this weekend, but I'm glad he stopped through. Thank you, Zach. But
awesome.
It's funny that you were talking about taking cue, or I was talking about taking cue from different people, because from watching your videos, I've kind of taken to put more graphics in mine. Like I like how you when you discuss different topics in your video, you like have like a graphic overlay of the topic that you're going to discuss. So I've taken to kind of doing it, not exactly how you do it, but I kind of taken to putting those type of graphics in my videos, because that's pretty cool. Like, because sometimes people might not understand what you're saying or things like that, and it's just nice to have that graphic overlay. So got that from you, man. So no doubt.
Well, I mean, everything is a remix. Like the whole, like I've been talking about, that great artist Steele thing a lot. And that comes from, people credit it to Steve Jobs or Picasso, but it comes from old school poets, where they're like, your job is to take something that's that's good and make it better. That's how you give back. Is like you take stuff and there's a really good video called Everything's a Remix about like where all the sources for Star Wars came from. And there's a ton of Japanese movies that really almost sometimes shot for shot or character for character George Lucas took for Star Wars, but Star Wars is not a samurai movie by any stretch of the imagination. So if you can take something that someone does really well and put your spin on it and try and take it in another direction or to the next level, that's how we all move forward.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, we all can learn from each other, but I don't know if blatantly copying somebody is a good idea. That's never a good idea. But taking bits and pieces from everybody and then adding to your own flavor, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
That's the way to be. No doubt, man. So what's coming up in the video catalog for Rene Richie? What are you working on, man?
I'm working on the actual review for the MacBook Pro, because I had to do like a 24-hour turnaround the first time, and I want to spend like a good week with it. I have the luxury because I don't do like you guys do everything. I don't know how you do it. Like you do almost every different company. I have the luxury of only really covering Apple. So, I can do like a 2 week later, 3 month later, 6 month later thing when I've had more time with it. So I'm working on that for the MacBook Pro, and also my final Pixel review, which I've gone back and forth on a lot. So I got to just, finally put something down for that.
See, the interesting thing is I think that plays to your advantage as far as a content strategy and an algorithmic thing, because on YouTube, the algorithm wants you to stick to one particular topic. So the fact that you mainly stick to Apple plays into your benefit as far as the YouTube algorithm is concerned, because then it defines you as an Apple channel, and then it knows where to push out your content, as opposed to me. Like you said, I'm doing everything. I'm doing smartphones, headphones, AirPods, whatever the case may be, and I'm covering different brands. So that kind of plays into my detriment as far as the YouTube algorithm is concerned. But to me, man, I don't want to be limited to one like subject matter or one brand, because then it gets stale and I get bored. And I like to cover everything, so I just do what I do, man.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too, because I don't know it anywhere nearly as well as you guys. Like when you have Roberto on the show, like I just said, shut up and listen. It's just, but there's like I've heard from different people. Like there are people who get way lower views but way higher conversion on stuff just because their audience knows and trusts them and wants their opinion on that. And that happens like you look at like Daring Fireball. He doesn't get as much traffic as a lot of other websites, but people really care about what he thinks, and his sponsor rates are fantastic because people know that his audience really cares about his opinion. So I think there's all sorts of, I think we're lucky that there's different models that we can use.
Hey, Rene, you are getting love in the chat, which is well deserved.
Like thank you.
Like it's been amazing watching you just come on to YouTube and just kill it. Like you've been crushing. Well, I shouldn't say crushing it. I shouldn't say killing because of the algorithm, but you have been crushing it.
Thank you. It's so hard. Like again, I'm trying to learn I keep a little journal, and every time I do a video, I try to pick a few things that I could do better and then try to do them better next time. And I backslide sometimes, but it's just so impressive. Like I love how natural you are on the mic. Like you just talk, and I still feel like I don't know what to say half the time. So I'm trying to just learn as much as I can from as many people as I can.
Yeah, it's funny because with me, and I think I've done almost 400 videos or over 400 videos, and I've never scripted any video at all. Because when I'm doing my videos, I want to come off and be as natural as possible, and I can't really do that with a script. I know a lot of people use scripts in their videos, and a lot of people sound natural when they're using a script. But for me, now,
Marquez said 90% of the stuff he does is scripted. I would never have guessed that.
Never, not at all. Like he comes off so natural that, like, I agree with you. I would have never have known had he not said that.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that I don't use an outline, because sometimes when I'm doing my videos, I have an outline of things in front of me that I want to talk about to make sure I stay on point. But everything that comes out of my mouth in the video is not scripted. It's basically off the top of my head. I'm just going by the guideline or the outline that I have in front of me. But yeah, some people can do the scripted thing very well. Like our friend Jason from Painfully Honest Tech, he scripts his video, but you will never know unless he tells you, because he's just that good.
See, I didn't know that either. He sounds like he's just talking to me on the mic.
Exactly, but he scripts his videos. I mean, but me, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be sounding like a robot. I want to come off natural, and the best way for me to do that is just to go off the top of my head and go from there. But it's all about repetition, Rene. As you know, repetition. Do it over and over again. Repetition is the father of learning. The more you do it, the better you get. And at some point, you do it so much, it becomes second nature. So that's what I've been doing.
But like, even like when I started doing podcasting, there was so much to learn. Like being on a podcast hosting a podcast, being on a panel, hosting a panel are all completely different skills. Like just and like you have to learn things like if there's more than one person on a podcast, I say, Viper, what do you think? And then like you hear your name, you cue in. If you're doing something else, you start paying attention. Everyone else knows who's going to talk next. And like I don't know those things for video yet, and I'm still learning all those things. And I know it took me a while on podcasting, but like it's not one-to-one transferable. So those are all the little things that I'm trying to like when I watch like when Marquez or Justine posts their Final Cut Pro images, I look at like their timelines and see like, oh, he's overlapping that. Why? And I like try to figure out why they're doing. Like, there's just so much to learn.
No kidding, man. I'm still trying to learn how to edit videos and podcasts and things like that, because editing a podcast is vastly different from editing a video. Yeah. And a video, the audio needs to run together. You don't really want dead space when you're editing audio in a video. But on a podcast, you don't want your audio to run on like that, because then it just sounds jumbled and crazy. You want dead spaces in your podcast audio. So I've been trying to figure that out and figure out the pacing for my podcast when I'm editing the podcast. So it is definitely a different skill set when you're doing one as opposed to the other.
And I was watching Jason Snell edit a podcast, and he would use strip silence. So it just took all the silent parts out, and you could see everybody's little, because he edits massive amounts of people on a podcast. And then he'd lay down a room tone so that if there were any breaks, they would all have the consistent sound of the room, of one room, so that it just sounded better. Like there's all these little things that you pick up over time. And it takes a lot of time to reinvent the wheel. So if you try to pay attention and learn, I feel like you can benefit from the experience that a lot of people have.
Yeah, definitely. And the people in the chat seem to think that you are doing very well on the video front, Ray. So I wouldn't shoot yourself in the foot too much, man. You're doing well, man. You're doing it big.
Got to always keep learning though. The death of anything is when you stop learning.
Oh yeah, complacency is always the death of getting better, man. No doubt. You are a fine example of how to do things the right way in the creative space.
Back at you, sir.
Love talking to you, man. I love talking to you every time.
Likewise.
It's been too long, man. It seems like it's been forever since the last time we talked. So I'm glad.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the invite.
No doubt, man. I don't really have any other questions for you, man. Is there anything you want to talk about? Good. Anything on your mind or anything that's going on?
You nailed the highlights. That's everything that I've been. If there is anything else, I've been so busy with this stuff, I haven't thought about it.
All right. So before I let you go, let's talk about iPhone 2020.
Sure.
What is your wish list, or what do you want to see happen with the next iPhone?
So I like many people are smitten with the new iPad Pro design. It's like retro, future retro, and I would love to see a little bit of that flavor come back to the 2020 iPhone. I've been hearing about the AR camera on the iPhone like going back 3 years. Like they've been working on that thing 3 years, and like every year I'm like, please let this be the year, because the FaceTime the True Depth camera lets you do a bunch of really smart AR stuff, and they haven't brought any of that to the rear camera, which is why like Memoji stickers, AR stickers, all that stuff is only in FaceTime and iMessage. It's not in the camera app yet. But for a couple of years, they've had like a more advanced camera app, more advanced camera system. I've been waiting for that to ship, and it sounds like 2020 is the year. We'll get like the time of flight sensor. We'll get that AR camera app. That's going to be one of the big things for me next year.
What about the AR glasses? Can we get the AR glasses though?
So I think we'll get like that headset that was rumored first, because that seems more in keeping with current technologies. The glasses, I just don't want them. Like the Apple Watch came out, like the messaging was confused, but it was such a well done product. Like I think the apps were too early and they didn't focus on the messaging enough. They fixed that real fast. Those glasses, like to me, they have to be Apple Watch quality. And if I have to wait till 2025, I don't want them to be Google Glass. I don't want to be an Apple Glass hole. I want them to be like, I want them to be a good product. So if I have to wait, the thing with Apple is like different companies, Samsung is happy to throw out like a Fold now. And I love that, because having both a Samsung and an Apple in the market, or a Huawei and an Apple, gives us the best of both worlds. And when Apple's first to something, they start stumbling, and they're way better when they can look at how other companies have done it, figure out the problems that normal people have, and then fix those. So I'm not in any hurry for them. If they're 2025, totally fine by me.
Yeah, I don't. Besides the HomePod per se, I don't know if any first gen Apple product that have completely wet the bed. And even the HomePod didn't really completely wet the bed, but it was just missing some features that it should have had. But other than that, I don't remember an Apple product completely wetting the bed on its first time out.
Well, the HomePod, it was interesting because they started that years ago, like before the Alexa became a big thing, and they weren't thinking about a home assistant. They were thinking about a speaker, and because they had Siri, it was a convenient way to control a speaker. So they made the inverse product of what the market wanted. They made a really good speaker that happened to use Siri, and everyone else was going, you can just have a normal speaker with a really good assistant. You could just do that. But the benefits of that HomePod team, like we've seen that now in the iPhone speakers, in the AirPods, in the new speakers in the MacBook are ridiculous. Like they sound like a HomePod. So that has paid off for them across the entire product line. Even if HomePod never sells another unit, we have gotten so much better audio from Apple because of that I think it was still a good project.
No doubt. And I think that we expected that, especially when Apple acquired Beats. I mean, I think everybody thought when Apple acquired Beats that eventually the Apple product audio would get a significant upgrade because, I mean, what else are you buying Beats for, right?
Yeah, and now they filtered that back to Beats. So I think Beats gets the benefit of that giant lab that Apple built outside of Apple Park, and they can go in there, and that the technology in there is just crazy. Like I went in there with other analysts who've been in those kind of labs before, and they're like, "We've never seen one this big."
Yeah, I think that lab that they use, that lab is intense, man. They got foam everywhere. It's like being trapped in like a little mental box. It's crazy.
And they do crazy things. Like you put your iPhone up to your ear, and they actually try to sense where your ear is relative to the earpiece and direct the sound into your ear so that you can hear things better. I mean, like just where they're using the technology is everywhere now.
So Michael Pepper Tech taught that the Macintosh 3 was a failure. Okay.
The Lisa, the Apple 3. I mean, they've had the buttonless iPod Shuffle. They reversed that in a year. The Fatty Nano. They reversed that in a year. iPod Hi-Fi.
No doubt. So, how do you feel about 5G?
I think it's early. Like I think it's still early. Like, a lot of people really hyped about it for this year, but it's so non-existent. And some people were saying you need it this year because it's going to come out in future years. But the modems from this year are so terabad that you don't want a modem from this year for future 5G. You want a future modem for that. Like there's just no and you can tell because like the Pixel 4 came out with no 5G and nobody started writing painful articles the way they did about the iPhone 11. I think it's good technology. It's 3 different kinds of technology. Like there's low band, there's mid band, and there's the
millimeter wave. Yep.
Yeah, the millimeter wave. So, and I think America's still the only one, maybe Canada, using millimeter wave. So we'll have to see. But I think it'll be great in like 2-3 years, the way LTE was when the HD Thunderbolt came out.
I am with you. Like I've been telling people all year long, 2019 is not the year you want to jump on the 5G train. It's not ready yet. It's still in the station. It's not left the station yet. But next year, maybe. But even next year, it's a little premature, in my opinion. I think by 2021, we might be seeing some real use cases and real scenarios where 5G could be viable. But there are rumors that every iPhone coming next year is going to have 5G on board. So that will be interesting to see if Apple actually does that.
Yeah, Qualcomm modems are back.
Finally! Thank you, God! Thank you, God! Oh, my Lord, Rene, when that settlement came down, I was so happy to have Qualcomm modems back in iPhone because we carry multiple devices. I carry an iPhone. I carry an Android. Yeah. And back when I had the iPhone 10 and the Galaxy Note 9, and I was using LTE on both of them, the LTE on the Android, the Note 9 was noticeably faster than on the iPhone because the iPhone was still using Intel, and the Note 9 was using Qualcomm. It's like,
I mean, yeah, and there's a whole bunch of if you get deep down into the Samsung Qualcomm relationship, that thing is it's nuts. Like the deals that they had, like what Qualcomm had to do to make Samsung use Qualcomm chips instead of their own Exynos chips, and what Samsung wanted in return. The whole thing is bananas. But you got really good LTE, and you got really good CDMA in the US when that was still a thing.
Yeah, so I am excited to see the LTE speeds on iPhone next year or 5G and where that area is applicable. That is going to be awesome.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what because again, people just say 5G, but is it going to be just low band? Is it going to be just like the mid range? Is it going to be 5? Like they're going to have the China bands, obviously. Are they going to do any millimeter wave? Is there going to be any millimeter wave? Because I wonder if millimeter wave is going to turn into the next WiMAX, where it comes out, people make a big deal about it, then it's condemned to farmers or inter apartment broadband or something, and it doesn't become a consumer technology.
All right, so I don't know how much of my content you've watched over the past few months, but I've been doing some 5G tests with Verizon, and what they told me is that although right now their primary 5G tech is the millimeter wave technology, they are planning on intermixing low band and mid band frequencies with the multi-millimeter wave because the multi-millimeter wave is so expensive and you will need so many cell towers to make that viable that it's not really realistic.
Yeah.
So they are definitely planning on intermixing bands to make the 5G network possible and build out. So it's not just going to be multi-millimeter wave. It's going to be multi-millimeter low band and mid band all mixed together to make the 5G network viable, at least for Verizon. And I imagine that's how the rest of the carriers will do it when they roll theirs out too. So,
but I mean, they're not going to get the same speeds with low band that they're going to get with millimeters.
So
no,
not at all.
Is this 5G?
no, not at all. I mean, I've been looking at the speed test that Sprint people are getting. I'm like, dude, that's like high class 4G. That's not 5G.
I forget who said it. It was someone in the industry who said 5G is going to fulfill the promise of 4G.
That is pretty accurate. I mean, if we keep going at the current rate that we're going with it, that's pretty accurate.
Because most people don't get good 4G yet, so if 5G can give them good 4G, that'll be fine.
It's funny, but it's kind of true. It's very true. But either way, I'm still excited to see what they can do with 5G because the speed on the multi-millimeter technology, the speeds are amazing. Like wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't want to hold you up. I know you're a busy man. You stay pumping out the content. So Rene, thank you very much for joining me on the show tonight, man. You're welcome anytime, dude.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And I love the show. Even when I'm not on, I often tune in.
I appreciate you, man. You have a good weekend, and I will catch you on the Twitter.
You too, man. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
No doubt. Thank you, guys. And that is Rene Richie. Woo. So, interesting conversation about Apple and things like that. Love talking to Rene about Apple because, as you guys know, if you're going to talk to anybody about Apple, it's going to be Rene Richie. But I'm not done yet. I am not done. The next part of this live stream is going to be very interesting. It's going to be sports focused. So if you're here for technology, you can leave because I'm done with the tech stuff. I am done. I think we've been talking about tech for almost 2 hours. I'm done. I am moving my focus to the NFL. Now, let me find the tweet that I've been complaining about all day today so I can show you guys exactly what happened and what I'm talking about here so y'all are not confused. So you are being warned. If you're here for tech, you can leave now. We're done with tech. I am turning my attention to the NFL. Now, where the hell is this damn tweet at? Because I'm really upset with this stuff, and this is pissing me off. So let me find this tweet. Actually, I could just type what I got going on. Actually, let me go to my mentions. I'm pretty sure it's in my mentions at some point. Actually, no, sorry, not in my mentions. Wait, what we got? Nope, not there. Where is it? Let me just go back home and try to search. Garrett. Hold on. Okay, Garrett. Put this in my search and Rudolph, and I should be able to find what I need to find here. There we go. And boom. And where is that? Come on, pop up. Nope. All right. Nope, that's the picture. I need the video. I need the whole damn video. Okay. All right, so cool. Okay, so can we nope, I don't want to do that. Can we like up there? Okay. All right, cool. All right. So I'm gonna share my screen so you guys can feel my pain and feel my fury. So let me share the screen here. And I don't need to, bro. Get out of here. And we're going to go to a Chrome tab. And we're going to go to this tweet that I got pulled up here. And bam. And let's see where we got. All right, cool. All right. So I want you guys, let me see if I can run it back. Let's watch it from the beginning. All right, so running back from the beginning. All right, so he tackles them. And then he tried to pull off his helmet right there. And he kicked him in the nuts. Look at his foot. He kicked him in the nuts. And then he gets his helmet ripped off. And then his next part is uncalled for. And bam. Okay, that's uncalled for. But I want you all to watch the first part of this scuffle. Watch the first part there. So he tackles him to the ground. It's a late hit, but it's not that serious, right? But you can turn down the volume here. But the dude, as he's getting up, he tries to rip the guy's helmet off and kicked him in the nuts, bro. He kicked him in the nuts. And then he ended up hitting him in his own helmet, which is just bad. But that is what I'm talking about. That's what I'm mad, bro. I am mad. Because the guy, number 95, Malcolm Garrett, he got suspended for the rest of the year. He's gone. And he should be gone. Because he hit him with his helmet. You don't hit anybody with your helmet. I don't care what the hell the situation is. You do not hit somebody with a helmet, especially somebody who's not wearing a helmet. That quarterback was not wearing his helmet when Myles Garrett went upside his head. That is assault. Like, in my world, he should be arrested for assaulting that man. But that's not why I'm mad about this. I am mad because even though he got hit upside the head with a helmet, he instigated it. He tried to pull the dude's helmet off and kicked him in the nuts. But nobody's talking about this, and the NFL is not even doing nothing to this dude. The dude is going to get fined, but not suspended. The other guy is suspended for the entire year, which he should be. Not arguing that. Number 95 is suspended for the year. He should, because he attacked the other guy with a weapon, and the other guy was defenseless. So that's not cool. But before it ever got to that point where he hit him with the helmet, the number Rudolph, the quarterback, the dude in the white, he tried to rip the dude in the orange helmet off, and he kicked him in the nuts. But yet the NFL is doing nothing. They're going to fine him, and that's it. He should be suspended at least one game for trying to rip this dude's helmet off and kicking him in the nuts. I'm sorry, bruh. There is a man code. As a man, it is widely known that you do not kick another man in the nuts unless your life is in danger. Other than that, and that's not that. But you don't kick another man in the nuts, bro. That's not what we do. We don't do that. That dude violated so many man codes, and then he tried to rip that dude's helmet off before he got his own helmet ripped off. He tried to rip his helmet off, and people are trying to defend him. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that he got hit upside the head with a helmet. I'm sorry about that. That's cool. But he was in the wrong just as much as the other guy was, because he instigated that scruffle to the point where he ended up getting hit upside the head with a helmet. So I don't agree with number 95 going upside his head with a helmet. I don't agree with that at all. But I also don't agree with the NFL not suspending number 2 for instigating the scruffle, because that stuff in the NFL happens all the time. It was a late hit. It was a penalty, and it should have been a penalty. I don't know if it was a penalty in the game, but it's a late hit. He shouldn't have hit him that late anyway. But quarterbacks in the NFL get hit late all the time, and nothing like that ever happens, because most of the time they get up and they go on to the next play. They don't try to attack the guy who's tackling them. They don't do that. What is going on, bro? What is happening here? I mean, good Lord. He actually kicked that man, and first he tried to rip his helmet off. Then he kicked him in the nuts, and he's only getting fined. He's not getting suspended. Like I said, I don't agree with him getting his helmet. I don't agree with him getting hit upside the head with a helmet, especially when he wasn't wearing his helmet. That could have been a serious injury or life-threatening at the very least. But to say that he's not at fault is bougie to me. It's ridiculous. Because he's a quarterback, he can't be suspended? Really? He had just as much to do with that as the guy who hit him with the helmet. Like I said, this stuff happens all the time in the NFL, and that does not happen. Usually the quarterback gets up and goes to the next play. He's not trying to attack the defender who tackled him. Nobody's doing that, except this dude, Mason Rudolph, number 2, who did that, and now he ended up getting smacked upside the head with a helmet, but nobody wants to talk about his part in instigating the matter to get it to where it got to. And that's why I'm mad. That is why I am mad. I'm mad because the one guy got suspended for the rest of the year, and the other guy is getting off with a fine. What is happening here, bro? What is going on, bro? What is happening? I don't understand. How did this dude get off without a suspension? He should have been suspended at least a game, bro. I don't get it. So that's why I'm heated, because you got one dude who got suspended for the rest of the year, and the other dude who got off with a fine, basically got off with a slap on the wrist. Got off with a slap on the wrist when he instigated the whole thing in the first place. Like, no, man, no. It doesn't work that way. No. So, yeah, I'm a little mad, but I do not condone the hitting him on the head with a helmet. I don't condone that. That is assault. In my world, number 95 would have been arrested, because that's assault. Like, there's no two ways about it. There's no defending that. I don't even know why he's appealing his suspension. He's actually appealing his suspension. What are you appealing? You hit him with a weapon. You're done. Your season is over with. There's nothing to talk about. You hit an unarmed man with a weapon. You lucky that's the only thing that's happening to you is getting suspended. There's nothing to appeal, bruh. You're done. Go sit down. Go on vacation. Go somewhere. Be gone. Be lost. So I don't know why Number 95 is appealing. He's done. He's not going to win his appeal. I mean, good Lord. You assaulted a man on live television, bro. You're done. Like, there's no getting around that. So, goodbye. You're done. But the quarterback who got hit was an instigator. He instigated the matter. He should be suspended for instigating. Like, I'm sorry. It is what it is. But a lot of people disagree with that take. I don't care. If he hadn't instigated it, he wouldn't have got whopped with a helmet in the first place. So, it is what it is. That's right, Big House. He got slapped on the head with a helmet and a wrist. And he got slapped on the wrist and a helmet to the head. That's right. I think he should have got suspended, but that's just me, I guess. Actually, I'm not the only person who thinks he should have got suspended. There's a lot of people who think he should have got suspended too. But it's ridiculous. So that's what I'm saying about that. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got about that. I don't know. But on that note, I have been live streaming a lot lately, and I think I'm going to give you all the rest of your Friday evening back. Thank you to my man Rene Richie for joining me tonight. Thank you to you guys for watching on the live chat, live chat in the stream here. Thank you guys for joining me tonight on Friday Night Vyp. And thank you guys for joining me on all my live streams. Like I said, I've been live streaming a lot this week, but I'm loving this microphone, man. I had to put this microphone on. I had to put this microphone doing patience. Oh yeah, I haven't really talked about this yet. So before I leave, for those of y'all that don't really watch, this is like the only live stream of mine that you watch. As you can see, I got a brand new mic. This is the Shure SM7B. This is the mic that a lot of podcasters use. This microphone is used by Joe Rogan for his podcast. Fun fact, Michael Jackson actually used this microphone to record his Thriller album. So this mic comes very highly recommended by industry people and creators alike and things like that. Our buddy Painfully Honest Tech used this mic for a long time. So a lot of different people have used this mic. And I wanted to get a better mic for my podcast. And this mic is legit. And I am so happy to be using this mic, man. I've been listening to some of the live streams, the playback, and my audio has been extra crispy with this mic. And oh my goodness, I couldn't be any happier about it. This mic is legit. Pricey as hell, but it's legit. But on that note, I'm going to get up out of here and leave you guys and bid you adieu. I will catch you guys. I don't know when I'm going to live stream again because I'm going to give you all a break. I've been live streaming a lot. And I actually got my podcast recorder earlier this week because Tech Ran joined me on Vyp Drive last night. So that'll be coming out on audio over the weekend. But normally I record my podcast every Monday night. But I've already got it recorded for this week because Tech Ran joined me yesterday. So the podcast is already done. So that is that. So not sure when I'll be back on the live stream. Probably sometime this weekend on me because I'm kind of addicted to the whole live streaming thing. But I need to get more regular videos put out on the main channel. So I think that could be my focus this weekend. More videos on the main channel. Why is Tech King Mike here? Aren't you doing a live stream right now? Yes. I will judge your fight tomorrow. If you will have me, I will judge, dude. Yes. So I guess I got to get ready for that. So I guess I'm going to be back on the live stream tomorrow being a judge for the tech fight. For those of y'all that are not familiar or are not aware, there is a tech fight happening tomorrow night on Tech King Mike's channel. He has Lover of Tech going up against Scott Peachy. They are having a live tech fight. And he has just asked me to be a judge. And I am accepting since I am free this weekend. So yes, I will be a judge for tomorrow night's tech fight apparently. So I guess I'll be live again sooner than I thought. I mean, would y'all have it any other way, though? Would y'all have it any other way? So, if you want to catch Viper live again, I will be on Tech King Mike's channel tomorrow night as a judge for the tech fight. I think it starts at 9 p.m. Eastern or 10 p.m. Eastern. Let me know, man. I think it's either 9 or 10 p.m. Eastern. Let me know, Mike. Let me know, and I can let the people know. But yeah, that's where I will be tomorrow night. Jason said I need to do the intros. Huh? That's funny. Oh, man. But yeah. 9 p.m. Eastern time. So at 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night, I will be on Tech King Mike's channel being the judge for the tech fight. But that's where you will find me tomorrow night. And as far as being back on this channel, who knows? I don't know. I need to get back to focusing on regular content. So that's where I'll be. I'll be on the main channel. But until tomorrow night, over on Tech King Mike's YouTube channel, baby, this your boy Viper, the man about tech. You know where to find me. So come back for more.